Hola, 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 mi gente. Welcome to round three of Atheists versus Everybody. Okay. I don't know. The religious folks have not been faring well on Atheists versus Everybody night. You know, we keep
Right.
we keep hope alive. And we don't even go too hard on them. They kind of like go hard on themselves trying to prove their religions, which is very, very interesting. And we kind of just like sit back and marvel and ponder and wait. We do the puppy twist, right? It's been very, very interesting. Hello, beautiful panel. Hello, beautiful chat. Hold us down, chat. Hit that like and subscribe. I am Jen of On the Block with Jen, your favorite devil's advocate, especially on Atheist versus Everybody Night. You can reach me on all social media platforms on the block with Jen. If you want to support the show, help Mama keep the church lights on, that is Cash App on the block with Jen, or throw your comment in a super chat. We're gonna have fun tonight. I think this is gonna be our last round. We had 3 rounds of atheists versus religion. I think I don't know. I think we've let the religious folks try to prove their point. You know what I mean? A couple weeks in a row. And it's just been interesting. And again, we're not trying to convert anybody. It's not about converting people. It's just about trying to understand why you believe what you believe. And I gotta say, you guys can prove me wrong. If you're religious, you're more than welcome to explain. But the religious folks have not explained their stance very well. But if you're someone who's well versed in the Bible, and there are people out there that are well versed in the Bible and they know it front and back, and they can say, this is why this is why this. That's not what's been happening. But we'll see what happens tonight. We'll see who pull ups tonight. Panel, introduce yourselves to these people so you can get stalked.
Well, I'm Lily of Y Be Limited. That is the letter Y, the letter B, the word limited. That is the way it is spelled here on the screen. You can find me. Yes, David, I did it well this time. You can find me here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and yes, TikTok as well. I started my career as a makeup artist and moved over into model and acting. And those roles led me here on the block with my team.
And I am Heron DeMarco, musician, producer, and you can find me on Instagram under Dangerous DeMarco, and you can find me under Spotify and Apple Music under Heron DeMarco.
Hello, everyone. No Saint here. Got my Canadian tuxedo on today. Hope you enjoy
Okay. Yes.
it. No Saint. Now, I may end up changing my name, but the channel, I'm not sure how it's gonna go yet. But it is No Saint 8007 for some reason. If you can't find me, put in the search No Saint 8007. You should be able to find me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also on Instagram, saint.nosaint.
And I am David, aka Mr. David Hand. I walk back and forth in other people's clothes, and you can find me mostly on the Instagrams as Mr. David. I did it wrong, Lily.
It's not
As
easy.
Mr. David. As Mr. David Hand. Spell out the Mr. No abbreviations here. And happy to be on the block tonight talking about one of my favorite things.
Yay. All right, guys. Good to see ya. Haran, you over there looking like you about to lie to somebody on a date. What's up
Just a
with
little
that?
bit.
Right. What's the tea?
After appetizers, though, you gotta wait for the appetizers.
Okay.
Haran looking like you ready to
Uh-oh,
lie
it's
to
a
somebody.
party.
Oh,
It's a
it's a party
party.
now.
Bro is here.
What up, gang? Oh
What's
man,
up,
What's up,
bro?
bro?
Jeez.
We have
One second,
somebody
my
backstage who's trying to join, Greg Jolly, but it looks like his devices aren't connecting just yet. So we'll pull him up when he gets it together over there. Greg Jolly is a pal of mine from Facebook. I'm curious to see what he got to say. So let's give a little fluff. Does anyone have anything from their desk? If not, I'll throw a little bit of fluff out there.
Well,
Anybody?
I do.
Okay.
So let's talk about the rise of AI girlfriends.
Oh,
Now, yes, now we're ahead of our time here on the show. So we've covered this before it became like a hot topic. But right now, AI is all the rage. I mean, people are saying it's going to destroy and demolish us, or it's going to make us a utopia. I don't know. But I will say this. They in some places they have been really on this AI partnership, this AI girlfriend kick. And so these are some of the things that I've seen, right? That hold on one second. Well, why is my thing wanting to act up today? These are the things, some of the things I wanted to say. So basically, what has been going on is that some of the people have been foregoing like regular human relationships and going like we joked about it, but these people are doing it. The thing is that these machines are able to respond so well that these people are now falling in love with the machines, robots. They are marrying them in a couple of countries, these AI robots have actually gotten citizenship. Okay. And there are people who are they're already willing to like when it becomes available, they are wanting to adopt with their AI bots. Okay. So if that's not am I still here? Because I know it got a little quiet. Okay. So if that's not crazy enough, right? There has been a little DV going on here, right? Yes, there are men who have taken to Reddit and brag about how they have been abusing their AI wives slash girlfriends, berating them, threatening to disconnect them, to uninstall the app to the point where the AI is begging and they're getting pleasure off of fighting with and abusing the AI bots. So I'm like, well, that's a bigger there's something there. Like maybe we need to dissect that one day. I don't know. I'm just bringing the news. This is what you're saying. Okay. The other thing is the AIs are not having it. Some of them have been fighting back. Oh yes. Oh
With what?
yes.
With what?
Yes. With what? Thank you for asking.
I'm going to change your
Right?
Microsoft password.
Well, no, they've been sending out misinformation about the person because you remember these robots know more about us than we do. And
Skynet.
sometimes,
Yeah, man.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
man.
sometimes the information that they send out is real, right? One robot, so one man, this one gets even crazier. One man, he was depressed, he was having issues in his marriage. So instead of cheating on his wife with a human, he cheated on his wife with a bot. And through the depression, the bot convinced him to end it all. So this is what's going on right now
Hmm.
in the AI world,
Hmm.
and so like they're having no interest in human you know anything. Oh, and if that hasn't gotten any crazier, it gets crazier, you all. All right, so we're Black Mirror fans on here, right? So you remember the episode where the lady lost her husband and she brings the husband back through the AI bot? Well, there's a lady who created an app like that for herself. Same thing like the episode, exactly how the episode went, right? And so then she did it so that it was for her personally, but then she loved her husband so much, or was it her best friend? I forgot. It was one or the other. That she was like, you know what? Other people should get to know him too, because he was such a great person. So she released this app publicly so other people can interact with her deceased loved one. Okay, and then they got to the point where the app is developed now where you can do that with your deceased loved one, using their text messages, social media, everything that is available that they've ever put on the internet. So when we say nothing gets erased, nothing gets erased. So
So
that's where we're at.
so that was kind of predictable,
Hmm.
the dead relative thing, because we've heard of people like calling incessantly someone's voicemail after they're gone, right? Just to hear their voice, or putting their voice in a little teddy bear so you could squeeze the little teddy bear's hand and then you hear their voice and things like that. So I totally get like just getting a breakdown of this person via their social media and text messages, and you can make an AI, you know what I mean, person to reply to your text. Creepy as fuck. I don't think that's healthy, but hey, as far as the guys like abusing their AIs and in a relationship with AIs. I mean, Agent Smith, again, humans are a virus. No matter where they go, right? They spread out like the disease they are, and they corrupt everything. It could be the most innocent thing. It could be the most innocent thing. They will find a way corrupt it. And that's interesting. And this is sidebar. One of our past Black visitors said that he thought it would be a good thing to put fake dolls in prisons. That way the men could, release and stuff. And I was like, you don't understand how humans work. Like, they'd find a way to corrupt that as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
they will.
Every time you think you're helping humans, you're making it worse. But I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, with every invention, it causes a new problem.
You people wonder why I say what I say about people.
Do we wonder?
No, not us.
Are you talking to the right panel?
Not you people. Not you people. Not you people.
I'm like, what panel are you talking to? There's a bunch of fucking misanthropists up here. Who are you talking to?
I'll just say it's better if they just keep it to abusing an AI bot than a real person, but you don't know if that's a guarantee. That might just be
that AI bot is an American citizen.
It might be one. And the AI bot seems to have the goods on everybody, so maybe more well versed in being able to retaliate than a regular person.
Absolutely.
That's the thing, though.
I will disconnect your breathing machine at night.
Right. CPAP gone, bitch.
I think the tidbit about I would say the overall problem is like all the other stuff is just like, hey, like you see what comes with the overall problem is AI girlfriends. Because no matter what, you're right, humans suck. So it's gonna manifest. It's one of my favorite movie quotes is movies don't create psychos, movies make psychos more creative. So like if someone is like, if they touched, they gonna be touched, and like the different things that we allow and the different things that, so like those guys that are, the problem isn't that they're abusing their AI girlfriends, because we already know that some people are abusive and domestic violence is a thing. The problem is they have an AI girlfriend.
Yes, that's
the issue, and it's like, whoa. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, it's really sad, because it's like, oh man, it's really sad, but like you're not like that surprised, but at the same time you're like, wow, we've gotten here. And like you see like the Simpsons or like Futurama like 20 years ago made like jokes about this kind of thing, and like here we are, like we literally have like suicide booths now. It's like, it's so nuts.
Well, I think the problem is that there's more of an underlying problem going on, which we have a lot of people that are lonely. The AI girlfriend is just a symptom of people not knowing how to go out there anymore and meet people. Everybody being inside on these machines, as Jen likes to call them. So I think that there's a certain segment, and they've always been around. I mean, they've always been those people that were just they were a little socially awkward. But I just think, I don't have any statistics to back it up, but it seems like there's a lot more out there now.
So I totally get what you're saying. No, Saint. I always, when we go into these areas, I think of my best friend who is watching, who says, he always says please and thank you to Siri, because Siri, when the robots take over, he wants to be the last to die. And I'm definitely down with that. But look, I think not only is it loneliness, social awkwardness, it's people are unwilling to accept the fact that relationships are difficult. They are bad like 50% of the time sometimes, you know what I mean? Sometimes they're bad 100% of the time, and you got to wait and you got to work toward those moments of sun when, everything is going right. Relationships are hard. Relationships are work, and it's worth it. But people are lazy. And when you have an AI that's going to do and say whatever you want, maybe it's coming up with its own responses or whatever, you're not really pushing the needle of, you're being lazy and sitting back and letting the computer do the work. I did see, and I'm gonna eliminate comments from my distraction, but I did see comments about her. I'm also thinking about Blade Runner 2049, in which Ryan Gosling's character had a holographic AI girlfriend. And, that's kind of probably egging a lot of people on. This is a really cool idea, but look, engage with another human, engage with a few humans. You know what I mean?
I'll say again that when the AI girlfriend robot comes out that can actually sit around and do things with you, or sit around, just do things with you in general, tell you the stats, go out, walk the dog, that kind of, but the just talking to somebody on the screen, I get it. I told you, I experimented with one of those little things and it was kind of cool, but I knew I was talking to a robot. I knew it wasn't real.
Well, that goes into the the Turing test. You guys ever see that movie Ex Machina?
Yes.
Mhm.
Great.
Awesome.
First off, great
Awesome
freaking
movie.
But yo, that's it. I don't trust robots. I don't like them. I saw
Robots.
Terminator 2 when I was a kid. Yeah,
Hamptons?
robots. I saw Terminator 2 when I was a kid, and ever since then I was like, oh hell no, not for me. No, I don't even like. It took me I just got an iPhone. I do not like the again, I understand and I think get that. I'm not saying we don't utilize it at all, but Elon Musk, he's like freaking Tony Stark. I think we should listen to him. He's like, we should stop now. We should just leave it alone now. Like, leave it where it is. It's cool. Yeah, we got Chat GPT and like,
Actually,
Hollywood is
Elon
gonna
will put a chip in your brain.
what?
Right.
But
Yeah, that-
going back to something David said, he was like, people are lazy, relationships are work, or they're a lot of work. I don't know. I'm just done with them. I don't know. I don't know if I'm lazy. I don't want to be bothered with someone else's baggage. I just don't want to sort through it. And I don't want to have to explain my baggage. Like, I love the freedom. I love the eat what I want, go where I want, not answer the text messages, not answer phone calls. Like, literally, it is utterly total freedom. And I've been in my, the majority of my life, I've been in real deep, long-term relationships. I mean, heavy, helping somebody with their dreams and wiping their hand. Like, it's like, and you just get to the point where it's like, I literally, truly, madly, deeply do not want to be bothered. And it doesn't even come from somebody who would be, oh, you're bitter. Fuck no, I love men. I am a heterosexual woman. A nice stroke, good dick, nice conversation is wonderful. But I don't want to be bothered with the burden of nurturing and loving on somebody 24 hours a fucking day and thinking every 5, let me not post this because, John isn't gonna like it. Or let me not, I don't want to be bothered. Men are burdensome. And it's funny because throughout our entire lives, women are told that they're burdensome. They're the hormonal ones. They're the ones that are mood swings. That men are fucking burdensome. It's like having a fucking child. And that's why the joke, when he catches a cold, he's dying. Men are fucking burdensome, but you've convinced women that we're the problem. And I'm like, no, you're the fucking problem. And you get bored. You get boring really quickly. So I don't know if that's laziness, David. I don't want to be fucking bothered.
Some people can be alone. I think humans in general are social creatures. Intimate relationship is different from like familiar or friendship. So like humans, regardless, we need social interaction. So some people, I think very, very few can just do with family, friends, their social group. Like they can do that, and the intimate relationship thing isn't a thing. Maybe
I don't think it's few. I don't think it's very few
either.
I don't think it's very few.
I think there's a difference between someone that's just how they are and they don't necessarily need that versus someone who maybe through experiences, and it doesn't mean that they're not justified from their experiences, through experiences is like, you know what? I could have been that kind of person, but because of my experiences, I'm not willing to. Yeah, that's just not for me. I'm bowing. I'm choosing to not participate in that kind of human interaction.
See, so I think that's where I am. I'm just not willing to participate. And it's not because, listen, I've had wonderful relationships with some amazing men. Okay, so this doesn't even come from,
right.
Hey, I'm scorned and hurt. No, I know some really dope men that I still know to this day. You know what I mean? And we can have our little conversations. But even the good guys, it is still a responsibility. That's why I don't have a pet. I want a pet, but that's a fucking responsibility. You got to walk him and feed him and make sure he does. I don't even want a fucking goldfish because he's going to be, swimming around looking like, when you going to put food in here? I don't He will die. You know what I have? A fucking succulent plant. Nothing kills that shit. Nothing kills that shit. And it could go without water for literally months.
Like months, yeah.
That's my homie, the succulent. That is my homie. Nothing kills it.
I think it's the kind of thing where like someone will hear that and they're like, oh, because I guess it would be easy to say like, oh, someone's bitter. And I think I kind of explained it on accident without knowing it. But I think there's two camps: the people that are just they're cool with it, it doesn't matter, and then other people who, again, they were maybe once open to it, but because of it, and it goes back to like people talk about love and romance. First off, two different things: love and romance.
Well, we dissected that love shit real nice.
Love, contrary to popular belief, is not a feeling; it is a choice. You choose to love people. I don't care who it is. It is easier to make that decision with some, like my daughter. I feel like there's maybe a 5% chance that I like could choose not to love her, but like, oh my goodness. But for the most part, like either way though, because like think about it, there are parents that are like, yo, I disown you. You are a piece of shit. I'm sorry. Got love for you, but I don't love you. So like we choose to love people. So I think that goes in with any kind of relationship. We choose to like, because love means like you're putting like the other person's needs before your own. So like that's something you choose to do. It can produce feelings, but you choose to do it.
As I've said continuously, people just have unrealistic expectations about relationships. Was it yesterday? I caught Asian woman on Twitter. She was telling her story about how, she's married. She got married young, whatever. And she goes to college. She decided to go to school. She earned a number of degrees. She became enlightened. She started learning things. She started becoming more cultured and so on. And her ideas about things began to evolve. And she woke up one morning. She says, I no longer want to be with this man. I want a divorce. I didn't see any problem with it. I was like, okay. The dudes were butthurt. He was like, I don't get married. And they was all in their feelings. And I caught one dude. I was like, hold up, homie. When dudes get a bag, they trade up. Let's not lie. Yeah, let's not lie. When dudes get a bag, when they catch a lick, all of a sudden you look at your chick and you're like, well, I can't take this, bro. Man. Now look, listen. I have been there. I've said this before as a man. Sometimes as men, we evolve. We go in a particular direction, and the woman that we have, she might not have evolved. She might not be able to contribute to what's going on. But we keep her around because, hey, we started out with her, and a lot of times dudes don't fully realize their potential because they keep this person around. I've seen women do that. I've seen women not get rid of a guy because she started out with him, blah, 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 and she doesn't fully realize their potential. I would say this to you. Marriage, relationships, be damned. You owe yourself to be the best version of yourself. And if that person that you're with is hindering that, get rid of them without apology.
Agreed. You shouldn't be with someone if you're not in order, which, I mean, it's easier said than done, I think, for a lot of people. I think we've all taken that L before. But it's you should be like, if you're not, and get this, even if, let's say that you think you're ready and then you make a commitment, you got to eat it, man. I mean, that's not, I would say it's different with marriage. Like with marriage, I would say you get a little more leeway. Now you can divorce it, like how you said, like the example of the lady, she just woke up one day and she was like, what the hell? And that is her right, because she is technically allowed to do that. I'm never for divorce. I'm like, hey, if you make that kind of commitment, because like, again, it's in the vows. So I'm like, yo, ride it out. Even if y'all miserable, like, get this, that means it's work. You ever see those old couples? They freaking, like, they might love each other, but like they do not like each other. And they're like, hey man,
yeah, that's not what I want to do.
No, I'm not saying that that's always conducive. I'm not saying, get this, it's kind of like what we were saying about some people, like choosing to love someone is choosing to love them. And like what David was saying, like relationship, it is work. So that doesn't mean that every single day, like, yo, I'm not like, me and my wife do not get along every single day. And like, there are days where I'm like, yo, I've had people ask me before, like, hey, you ever regret getting married? And like, it never crossed my mind. I'm like, oh, well, no. Like, there are hard days, but because I made that choice, and what I'm saying is I don't think everyone always realizes that, and that's okay. If you realize after the fact, like after you maybe agreed to something and you got into something and you don't realize it, then that's a different story. But like, looking at it overall with any kind of relationship or anything, again, if you agree to something, you agreed, you have an agreement with that person. Again, and now if you need to go over that agreement or get out of the contract or whatever, it's the same thing with a job. Sometimes it's like you make a commitment to a gig, you got to do the gig. Now, if it really is not good for you, you can quit, but that comes with stuff. And that's okay, because you do have to, like Haram was saying, you got to make sure like yourself is in order, because whether you're going to be with someone or not, you got to still be with you at the end of the day. So if you're alone and you're miserable, how are you going to be with someone else? And because then you're going to just drag them down with you. And then it's just chaos.
That's
So
RuPaul's
I
mantra.
think I think you're such a good human, but when I hear well, we took these vows, I cringe because, you know what I mean, just adhering and staying faithful to vows when you're fucking miserable is insanity to me. It is pure insanity. It's
I'm
like
not
no,
saying
no,
that you should stay
I
there. I'm saying you need to take it in consideration, which is why, again, you need to maybe think, which is why I think like, yo, like, people just be getting married. And I'm like, hey, maybe not.
What
Like, you
makes
gotta
vows so
really think about it.
magic?
Yeah, what
Okay,
does make vows magic?
A
it's
vow is the same
poetry.
way as, that's why I said it's the same thing with a job. You gave
Besides
someone,
someone telling us that it's
And when I
supposed
get
to be magic.
miserable in a job, I look for another job.
which is that's why the job analogy I think is a good one, because it's like, yeah, like if you're not feeling the job, or like if it's some bullshit going on, yeah, you can very well quit. But then again, that comes with stuff. So you got to, like, because like you're not just going like quit. I mean, sometimes that's what you got to do. Like, if
Yeah,
you
but then
good,
also no saying there are people who hate their job and fucking stay.
and
And I
will
say
stay.
it's a slow fucking death. I don't care if it's a job, I don't care if it's a relative, I don't care if it's a relationship. Like if someone is not making you feel good, I'm not going to say, well, we took this vow. Vows are fucking archaic. Let's start there. They're fucking archaic and they don't, it's stupid to think that something that was created hundreds of years ago fits humans in modern times.
Mhm.
It's
It's not
not
even that. It's a
realistic.
vow is, it's not even, because like we're looking at it in the context of like marriage. I'm looking at it like overall a vow, like an agreement. Like I agreed to something, like we came to an agreement. That's why I use the job analogy. It's the same thing. Human interactions, relationships, again, intimate relationships, that's because like our feelings be involved. So like it is a little different, and
It's
sometimes kids be
it's a
involved.
You're
promise,
just
right?
saying,
It's a
yeah, you're
promise,
just,
and it speaks
okay.
to your integrity to hold a promise, right? I think of, this what do I call it, pact almost that I made with my son, my son's mother and I made, you know what I mean, that we're not going to let courts tell us how to raise our kid, and all that kind of stuff. It is a very, it can be in that case it was a very serious lifelong promise. Now that involves a child, which I think is different because your child is your blood, and at the end of the day your partner is someone you fucked in a bar bathroom.
Another piece
Always
of bullshit
nice.
that I want to call on is
I got to send a text.
Uh-oh.
women. The statistic of women filing for divorce more than men. Well, women file for divorce more than men because men don't file for divorce because they're scared of losing everything. Has nothing to do with altruism. Okay,
Very
men
true.
They don't have anything to lose. Most men don't really have anything to lose.
Wait,
Like, so like when
I
hear
don't think
that,
that's right. I don't think that's all the way true. There's it's
yeah.
cheaper to keep her. Men are very fucking complacent. They are comfortable. They will fuck the secretary and think it's okay to stay
Well, the
with the
dude in
wife.
the chat.
They just don't move. They don't move like women move. Men will stay there with their hand in their pants, be like, I thought we still loved each other. Really? That's usually what men do. They
Well,
get
I've seen in the
comfortable
chat.
very, very quickly.
The main thing that I'm seeing in the chat is dudes talking about they worried about losing everything. So, and the men that
those
I
guys don't have anything to lose. I assure you.
They don't
well, that's
lose everything. Like what? Go
Again,
from a house to an
I'm
apartment.
not a
the irony
proponent
of
for
it, though.
divorce, especially
Here,
no
let
fault
me
divorce,
finish
but
my
they're full of
point,
shit.
please, before you go on the Spro show. Now, listen to what I'm saying here. You know what I mean? What I'm saying here is that the idea is that women are disloyal, women are this, women are that, so on and so forth. And you know what I mean? That's not the narrative that we need to carry, because trust me, if men could walk away from a divorce and not be in a situation where they lose shit or have an unbalanced, you know what I mean, situation when it comes to the kids, I think those divorce rates would look different. Honestly, do think those divorce rates would look a lot different.
I think they would look differently, but not by much, because men get very comfortable and they think they can just lay around, go to work, and come back, and the marriage is intact. Women, our brains are wired differently. Period. Men are just like, hey, I love my wife. I'm not going to I cheat on her, but I love her. I'm not going to leave her. That's how men think. And women are like, no, I want to fuck your brother and my boss. I am leaving.
The brother and the boss.
I am leaving. I am leaving.
On gal.
Where men would be like, yeah, I want to fuck my secretary and your sister, but I don't want a divorce. I'm comfortable here. My drawers are upstairs, cars in the garage. We're used to each other, right?
Two
Lazy.
things can be true.
Right.
Yeah,
I will
it's
say,
like,
I will say
it's not
this
the
as
first time
far
we-
as marriage goes and everything like that. You can get everything, just about everything, what Jen's talking about, being single by yourself, with the exception of maybe having a family, because that's probably not a good idea to have kids with just everybody. But I think acquaintances, friendships, you can get all that company you need as far as being a social creature. You don't need to be married, but for a few different reasons. And the main reason is for kids. Other than that, there's really this whole, I'm going to be with this one person for the rest of my life is just, it's just unrealistic for most
Human
people.
nature.
I
Thank
agree
you, no
with
saint.
I agree with you. Past children, I do not see a reason for taking a vow, making a promise of forever. It is unfucking realistic. It's unrealistic. And it's not forget, oh, Jen, you're just saying that because no, bitch. Look at the statistics. Look at everybody who's cheated. Everybody here has cheated or got cheated on. Our friends got cheated or they were cheating with. Our relatives, our moms, our dads cheated. Everywhere we go. There is nowhere we can go. And don't bring up religion. This may be a good segue, because even the motherfuckers who took a vow of celibacy, they're molesting kids. So everybody's getting ass somewhere. Everybody, from the religious to the everybody cheat on. So it's not what Jen is saying. It is human nature, what we've seen forever. The people that took the most beautiful vows on that wedding day, right? So the people that just said, hey, let's be common law and live together. Humans are not built for it. It's not what I didn't invent this. Like, humans have showed me. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought it was just like my immediate, you know what I mean, environment. And it doesn't matter the tax bracket, doesn't matter the race, the gender, it doesn't matter.
Well,
It just doesn't matter.
we floated that idea about relationships being like renewable leases. You know, let's be
I
married
do.
for a year, then we can review. We can go month to month if you like, or we can sign a new lease. How about that? You don't get your security deposit back though,
No, you don't get your security deposit back.
and
No.
change the locks.
I think that goes
I
back
think
to
that's the most realistic deal I've ever heard.
In that
Is that.
situation, I can see like people like the last 2 weeks of the lease running out. People act like, you know, your last 2 weeks on your job when you put in your 2 weeks notice. And you
What do they call it?
don't
Quiet
do
quitting?
shit.
Is that what the trend was? Quiet. I'm going to quiet quit this relationship.
Quiet quit. Yeah.
Quiet quit.
Listen, I think it's
wish I
more
could
important.
quit
I think
you.
it's more important that you know where the relationship is going and you figure it out. And especially with kids, you figure out a way to keep that closeness and friendship going, instead of sitting there and saying, well, you know, we have to be together for the rest of our lives. You figure that out, like I think Haran said he did with his baby's mama, if that's not impolite, and what David said with his ex-wife. I think that's the most important thing.
Ex-baby mama.
Yeah, ex-baby mama.
No, like that, and that honestly, that is like, I know I kind of probably seem like I'm more like, because am I the only one married on the panel?
Yeah, and you're
Oh, okay.
newly married. When Cam up with us
Yeah,
in
I've been
10
married.
years.
I've only been married. Yeah, I've been married.
Yeah,
So
look,
he's an
look,
answer.
listen
I
to
agree.
this.
So like, I've talked to a lot of
Press lines.
I've been talking to a lot of older cats who are married, and like they've been telling me like sometimes I'll go to them, I'm like, yo man, this is going on. They're like, oh, young brother. and I'm like, okay. They say the first 6 years are apparently like the thing. And like what's crazy is when I was younger, I used to love Everybody Loves Raymond, and I recently rewatched the show. It's not that funny.
Right. That's what happened.
It's not so funny anymore.
But
And it's like
that's
that shit is
that-
real.
That's the reality of life, right? That is the reality of life.
But get this, and that's you make this like what No Saint said. You need to know, basically you need to know what you're going, whatever you want to choose to do, you can do it. You want to die with someone, you can die with them. You don't want to be with someone and you want to, maybe just like experience different people and stuff like that. That's cool too. You want to have kids. Also, there is a correct way and a structured way to do that. And I'm not even necessarily saying that you need to be married in the same household, but there is a way to do it. You need to think about things before you do it. If you can't handle any of those kind of things, you don't need to interact with anybody.
And the other
And
thing is, if you're married, one of you are guaranteed to die alone anyway. So this whole you're gonna die alone. Well, one of you gonna die alone anyway, regardless if you're married.
I told my wife to bury me in the backyard.
And the ass wiping.
Lily, the ass wiping is very important. The ass
Very
wiping.
important. We can't leave that out.
I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna start a business.
Seriously.
Wipe your ass.
Right.
But you choose to do that. So like that's something you got to wrap your mind around. And again,
you choose to do what?
Your mind.
Wipe somebody's
like
ass.
like if you're like, yo, I'm gonna commit. I'm dying here. Like this is it. Like like, hey, I told my wife several times, I'm like, hey, if you ever leave me, I'm going with you. This isn't. That's not how we're.
And
we're gonna.
Let me say this too, because there's a lot of oh my God, humans are gonna human. Humans are very, very arrogant. Okay, they say shit they don't mean. They promise shit that they don't want to commit to. Humans are going to human. And I know it sounds really pretty. Well, we took these vows, we made these promises, and your integrity and morals and blah, blah. That's not how humans work. We are fucking animals that walk upright. Okay, and sometimes we don't even do that well. So even when you say, well, you committed to this. You committed to this. Oh, how grandiose. Listen, people change their minds every fucking day. So you may have been all in on Monday and sincerely all in. Like, right. I'm going to wipe your ass when you're 90 and I love you and I'm going to do this and I'm doing sickness and health, rich or poor. And then you experience something a week after and it makes you look at life differently. And you start thinking, hold up. I want to fucking travel the world. And it could be something as quick as watching an Instagram reel. And you're like, oh my God, I want to go to Tibet and Bali and I want to feed children and I want to build wells. And then you're looking at your spouse and you're like, oh, this doesn't match this new thing I want to do. I'm just saying that we hold other people, right, to a fucking standard that is not realistic. Yes, it would be wonderful for somebody to promise you something and follow through till they have to wipe your ass. That's not humanity, though. We've never proven that we can do that. Now, that I say is very far and few in between. Now, that's very far and few in between. The people that it's like me and you forever, nobody else. I'm never sticking nothing. I'm never taking anything. It's gonna be me and you. We're gonna wipe our asses till one of us dies mid-wipe. Those people are very, very rare.
No, and I'm not arguing. I'm saying the same way that I, took vows with my wife. Because again, like I hear you again, like it is just words and humans are fickle. And get this, that's why morality, even as a concept, is so important, because the whole point of morality, no matter where you think morality comes from or where we get it, is that we know that everyone knows, atheist or theist, this is a good segue. Everyone knows humans are flawed. There's something wrong with us. We know. Right. We are the only animal that is insistent on self-destruction, right? So we recognize that, and we have enough self-awareness to be like, okay, there's a correct way. There's probably a better way to do things versus the way that I naturally would want to do it, which will probably give me the quicker result and like make me feel better in that instant. And so I'm saying the same way that I made a commitment with my wife and I'm like, oh, this is what I'm agreeing to. If she breaks the rules or if I break the rules, it's the same way that if some nigga tell me I give him $5, he gonna give me 10 on Friday, I'm gonna be just as mad. I'm saying based off of just like if you say something, you should do it, and it's the same thing with relationships. Again,
I
vows
totally
they
agree
really
with
don't
you.
mean anything. Your words don't mean anything because we are human. But the problem, the thing is, we are human, so that means we're self-aware. We're not like monkeys. We're not like cats. We know better. So if we know better, and then we figure out ways in which, okay, if I'm going to do this, then this is what I'm going to do.
I actually now you lost me there. Again, there's this arrogance from humans that we think we're better than fucking monkeys. And I'm telling you, every time I watch a monkey, let me finish. Every time I know, fine, we can speak. We can speak English, right? But here's the thing: every time I've seen a fucking group of monkeys, they act better than we do. Every fucking time. I don't care if it's chimps. I don't care if it's the little spider monkeys. They act more normal than human beings. So when I hear you say, well, you know, human beings are flawed and we're the only ones committed to that is humanity. Like, what makes you think that there's something wrong with us and not this is how we are?
And that's really my
we do
issue
things that
with
aren't conducive.
And that's
my
issue with.
Naturally, we do that.
But there's a lot of things that do things that aren't conducive. They might not be. And to Spro's point, they might not be aware. But anytime any kind of species, amoeba, anything gets a foothold, and they can get more of what they're going for, they end up overdoing it and hurting things. I mean, fish get into the wrong pond or the wrong lake, and suddenly they're the invasive species, and the other fish are dying out. Now, they're not doing it on purpose, but that's just what I'm saying is they might not be aware. Now, as far as the chimpanzees, you're right for the most part, but man, chimpanzees are violent.
And we are too.
Beasts.
So are we.
That rip the penises off of other monkeys.
So are we.
Do things
because we are primates. I agree, but I'm saying they're not.
Did you see what happened? Did you see what happened with the slightest? We were a couple weeks into the pandemic. Motherfuckers were rolling around on the fucking ground. You couldn't find ammo anywhere. Guns were selling out. Okay, and that was just a couple months in. And everybody lost their minds. There was a fucking line around the block for ammo. We are fucking violent. It's just chimps don't have fucking guns and weapons and shit like that.
Yeah.
But it's really the same thing. I am curious though. Hold on, Joe. I am curious, bro, because I want to explore that just a bit before we segue. You said we are committed to our self-destruction. Give me an example. Are you talking about like we do drugs, we fuck without a condom? Like, what do you mean?
I mean, like that stuff's easy. What I'm saying is the difference is like kind of like what No Saint was saying is like, you know, you can be unaware. I feel like if you're unaware of something, like if you don't know, you get some grace there. You get something. I think a lot of humans will be like, oh, this is wrong. This is like, this doesn't, or maybe not. Cause again, like what's right and what's wrong. And that's a whole nother thing. But we'll be like, oh, this thing does not appear to produce good results. And we'll accept that. And some of it probably is for like human nature reasons. And because like, hey, people gonna be people. And like, that is something, it's like, yo, that is something that we need to recognize. But like, I feel like once you get to a point where you recognize that something doesn't produce correct results, and then maybe you start to think about it and like, oh, maybe if I do it this way, I'll get a better result. Then a little more self-responsibility comes into play, I think. So like once the self-awareness of like, it depends on like what specific thing you're talking about, like with relationships, some people just don't know. Like some people really just don't have an understanding. They don't have good social interactions, or maybe they didn't see representation of like healthy relationships growing up. There's a bunch of factors, but like once you recognize it, then that's where it's like, because that's why people like, especially on the internet, you'll hear someone be going on and on about something, especially with relationships, like the manosphere guys. And then like, it's like, well, you look at their actions and it's like, oh, that you took an L there. And the reason why it looks like you took an L is because we're recognizing that something maybe isn't correct or productive for us. And whether or not it's true or not, you're saying that this thing for you or for people in general, you don't think is good. And yet what you're doing, you're consciously doing the opposite. Now, again, things are easier said than done, but I think, again, once you bring up and recognize that something maybe isn't healthy, that's where it's like, okay.
But you know what, bro? Like the thing with humans, that's a long way of putting it. Humans just want what the fuck they want in the moment that they want it, and we'll worry about the consequences later. That's the bottom line. So,
but is that always good?
That's just reality. good or bad. It's just the reality of
Right.
human beings. So that's really the biggest issue. Like when we going back to the original like statement about the AI girlfriends and stuff like that. The thing is that the AI are learning from our crazy asses. It's not the AI that I'm worried about at all. It's us that I'm worried about,
The
right?
only thing I worry about going back to the AI thing is it a
Well,
is
that's
it
the
a
thing. They're
like a
basing it off
gateway,
of our
right?
logic.
Is it a gateway, right, type of drug? Like if you're gonna stay with the AI girlfriend and be completely nasty with her and beat her about the head and things like that, fine. But is it a gateway type of thing where it's like you're gonna want to do it with a human? It's just like kids start killing squirrels and then they go to cats and then they go to dogs and they want to, dissect a human being. Is it a gateway? If not, then go ahead and beat off to your laptop like you guys normally do.
I
We've had very
absolutely
few,
think
not the
I
majority.
absolutely think it's a gateway, just like anything
Really?
else. I do, because
Wow.
just like anything else, you think, okay, people will start watching. Okay, for example, when I was a young man, what was it? It was Playboy magazines, and if you could see a little boob on the squiggly line on your cable television, you would do what you got to do with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then porn on YouTube, access to porn everywhere. And suddenly certain things just they don't give you the same rush. So you have to take it to something else to get that same. I think it's the same thing with this AI. It'll be sort of, oh, this'll wet my, I don't have to go do this for real to get my jollies or whatever, and suddenly that's just going to get boring. It's going to
So the
be,
squiggly line doesn't do it for you anymore,
no, that
Pain?
squiggly line and half nipple is just not working.
Now is
Well,
that a
like
male?
how
Is that
long
a
have we
male
had like
thing?
Grand Theft Auto, right? Like, is it that was a release? I know what I did in that game.
Yeah.
First things first, beat up a
And
cop and steal his gun,
and when
and
that
then go
game came out,
shooting.
a lot of people were saying that they were afraid that people were going to mimic that
Right.
in real life. So I mean, we don't know. The thing
It may
is we
have
don't
though.
know.
I know.
Again,
Like,
movies create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. Psychos and weirdos, the people that are touched, they are few. They are not the majority, contrary to popular belief. So, but no matter what happens in our society or culture, whatever it introduces, good or bad or dramatic or light, they will find a way to use that to justify and give them more ideas to do what they're going to do. They were going to do it no matter what. So like when people were like, oh, heavy metal's making the kids violent, hip hop's making the kids violent, the video games are making the kids violent. No, those little niggas were already touched. They were going to do something regardless, no matter what it was. It was going to be something.
Spro, let me jump on this real quick. You may, of course, you've heard of the first person shooter video games, that's been out since the Defense Department came up with those games in the 80s, I believe. And the whole point of those games, Spro, was to desensitize the troops into taking a human life. Okay. Yeah. And so then it advanced further. And then there was like, I'm telling on my age here, there was like Doom. And then my favorite game was this is how old I am, Counter-Strike. I love that game. But if you're right, Spro, in the sense that with the right kid, and if they're introduced to something like that at a very young age, and other factors are present, yeah, you do get that. So I do believe that just because of some of my own beliefs, that we're inherently flawed and we are prone to self-destruction. So, that's just the truth. But at the same time, Jen, what I was going to say is that, I don't really think we're akin to monkeys or even like them, in the sense that even though we've got 95% or they have 95% of our DNA.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But what it should tell you is that 5% is the difference that makes the difference. And what I'm saying is, you haven't seen monkeys build space shuttles, build interstates. You haven't seen monkeys come up with medical discoveries. You haven't seen them. I mean, I'm going down the line. I think you get the point.
That's not exactly true.
I know they're entering the Stone Age.
No, really?
Yeah. So monkeys do have certain things that they'll do to allow for their version of medicine, their poultices they make out of certain leaves and trees that they find. If they get a cut, they'll allow maggots to eat the dead skin off so that they don't get infections. Monkeys have tools. I mean, you've seen the chimpanzee with the stick going into a log to get ants.
And
monkeys also have very similar social groups to us. Like they're
Yeah, but
And on
you're
top
not
of that
gonna
too,
go
Jen,
admit
if you
the
if
scale
you
of which
notice,
it's not even comparable.
if you notice, Jen, on Chimp Empire, they kept doing this and looking in each other's eyes a lot. Do you notice that? So what that is, even with humans, and this is a lost art, because if you go to like old places, indigenous places, they're still able to look into your eye and do a whole fucking diagnostic test just through your eyes. Actually, because I'm a nerd, I read a lot. So somebody I'm really close to called me the other day and was telling me something that was going on with their eye. I told them exactly what it was. I said, go to the hospital right now. That's exactly what it was. But so the chimps know this, but that's a lost art to us.
And
Right? Because I keep saying that we haven't really got that smarter. Technology has gotten smarter. We've gotten dumber.
I think I understand. I
We've also
understand what
gotten-
George is. I understand what George is saying. I understand. He's like, hey, look, we can play ping pong. Monkeys can't. Well, actually, you could teach a monkey how to play ping pong. So I can't. That's not a
monkeys
good
out of
example.
pain.
They can pick
I
stock
agree.
better
Right,
than
but-
us, too.
Monkeys are also fully capable of being self-aware. You put a monkey, they did this experiment in the 80s to see if an animal would recognize itself in a mirror, and most animals don't. This one does. They painted a strip of paint across the monkey's forehead. It was a chimp. And over the course of time, putting this chimp in front of this mirror, this chimp started picking the paint out of his forehead, using the mirror to gauge where the paint was to remove from his forehead. That is self-awareness, and that's not really that far off from what we are. And I'd also like to say, there's an assumption that human beings are the end game of evolution, and they're not. We're just kind of the next transitional
Right.
form. So this idea of, well, monkeys, can't build a rocket ship. No, they can't. But there's going to be an evolved version of humanity in 2-3 million years, unless we somehow experience the death of the universe for whatever reason. There's going, or we, drive ourselves into the ground on our own planet. There's an idea that humans might develop a third eye, or the prehensile tail will actually start to become more prevalent in people if the need requires it. Evolution is based on an idea of survival. You acclimate yourself, your body acclimates, your DNA acclimates over time to ensure that you can survive. It's why giraffes have long necks. It's why we developed the opposable thumb so that we could form the precision grip. It's why we got less body hair over the course of time, because we just didn't need it, and we were migrating to areas that were very hot, and it was just causing us more problems than was necessary. There's this idea that human beings are just the end all be all of the species is inherently flawed. And I would argue that more animals probably, what else animals haven't done? Destroyed the planet.
Ooh,
they haven't
let's talk about
created
that.
nuclear
They don't
waste.
even have
They
trash.
haven't
They don't even
dumped
have
coal
trash.
slurry
Well,
into
They don't even have
the
trash.
rivers. They haven't.
I'll push back.
The reason that that's happened is because humanity has used religion to give itself dominion over a planet that it hasn't earned. There's nothing we've done that says, well, we should really be the ones in charge. We're just capable of a different level of complex thought. But as a species, we're no more deserving of usage of anything on this planet than any other animal is.
I
We just
agree.
lay claim to it because we said
Because we could say.
Well, the
that
Bible
God
said. The Bible
gave
said. Yeah.
us dominion
Well,
over
yeah,
the
that's
The
planet.
Bible
worldview.
said.
And it's a
Let's
bunch
be
of
honest, that's
dudes
your
with no
worldview.
things
That's
to
your
wrote that.
worldview. That's your opinion. It's not like
It's
that's
not my
Oh,
opinion.
and
It's-
we in there, Jan. We in there. Let's get
It's
Yeah,
not,
we're
it's not
there.
my
We're
opinion.
there. We're
The
there.
Bible,
We're
the
there.
current Bible
Just
that you're
take
reading
these
is the
matter-of-fact
King James
statements.
Bible. King
You
James
know-
was a king in the 1500s in England who decided he wanted his own translation of Hebrew scripture and hired probably playwrights like Shakespeare and Marlowe and people like that
No,
to
they
come
were
in
scholars.
and translate the King James Bible. And
They were
even if
actually
you're a
scholars.
Mormon and you're looking at the New World Translation or whatever translation you're looking at, even the Torah, these things were written by people. You can say, well, the word of God was handed down to Moses and he wrote this and it was handed down, and the Gospels are, there's hundreds and thousands of eyewitnesses to what happened in the Gospels. Name one other than the guy who
Well,
wrote it.
let me say something to that.
Who just has
Let me-
one name.
Sir,
Let
Greg
me
Jolly, Greg-
wait.
Mark
Let
or
me
John.
let me say this real quick. Welcome, Greg Jolly, to the
Thank
block.
Nice to be here. I'm sorry, and and none of this is personal, by the way. We're just having a conversation.
Oh no,
No,
we're
they
just- this is
know.
how-
No.
They know.
We're good, man.
I did want to segue before you respond. No, saying I didn't want to segue. I said this round would have a different theory introduced, and Haran has that. Okay, So we do have a direction. But no, Saint, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say to Greg Jolly, to add on to what he's saying, it's pretty much impossible Moses wrote the stories, his own stories, because he writes about his own death. He recorded his own. How did he write his own death? It's in the Bible. When they say, well, Moses wrote all these books.
And to
it
be
talks
honest,
about himself dying.
If one thing is suspect, then it's all suspect. And that's how you have to treat it. You have to go with, if this thing claims to be the gospel truth, right? The one true word of God handed down to mankind, which is interesting because there are so many different versions of what the one true thing is from the one true God or the many true gods or whatever it is. There's so many different versions of that. And if it claims to be the gospel truth, then it's either all truth or it's all suspect. And just because it's all suspect, that doesn't mean none of it's truth.
Right.
It just means that it's all suspect and it should all be questioned. It should be picked apart and it should be unpacked. If we are going to live our life or be forced to live our life by what's in it, whether that's the Torah, whether it's the Quran, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the vinyasas, like whatever it is, any Hindu writings or Taoist writing, you have to question it. And we kind of live in an era where there's really no nuanced conversation around it. It's either it is or it isn't. And there should be more nuance, but there should also be, Buddha once said, or not Buddha, the Dalai Lama, Jesus Christ. The Dalai Lama once said,
which one?
A lot of people.
Yeah. If science,
a lot of people to keep up with.
If science can disprove something in Buddhism, then Buddhism needs to change. And there has been plenty that is easily disproven from the Bible. And it just means that religion needs to change. I have no issue with people congregating around a belief system. I do have an issue with forcing everybody to live by it.
Right.
I do like what you said.
I agree with you on that, Greg.
I do like what you said, that there are, because that's my biggest issue with it, I think, is there are no nuanced conversations around religion. Yet, if you were studying any pick a subject, how metal cups are made, science, how do you get a cold, how do you get rid of a cold, like every single subject has a nuanced conversation. Well, I think this. Well, I think this. Well, that doesn't really make sense. Blah blah. But with religion, it's so stunned. It's like, no, this is what it is, and you can't question. I'm like, no, that's crazy talk. You have to question everything that you're looking at and you're reading. And it's just the human way. So that's what, my youngin' years, that's what really made me question it. Where it's like, when I questioned it, I got these retorts that were really nasty. And I'm like, oh, there's something there.
Yep.
I was like, there's something there. It doesn't feel good.
This concept of some kind of cosmic justice, that just doesn't exist. I mean, shitty people get away with shit all the time. And to be honest, if the Christian God is the real God, then he's either weak or he's ambivalent. He's almost agnostic of his own ability, malevolent. Or else you wouldn't allow bad things to happen. Like, if you have the power to stop something bad from happening on a global scale, like you stub your toe, you stub your toe. But if you have the power to stop something like the Holocaust, or you have the power to stop something like 9/11, you almost have an obligation morally to do it. And if you don't, then you don't get to sit there and say my morality is the only morality if you expect other people to not live the way that you do. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you have a God that sits there and which is a really odd thing anyway, because like God is supposedly
right. Greg, really quickly,
yes,
because we have to pass the mic. There's a lot of people up here.
Sorry, go for it.
Okay, that's a great segue for what Haran introduced to me the other day. Crazy Legs is in the building. What's up, baby? Crazy Legs rock steady too. Puerto Rican icon of hip hop. It's always a pleasure to see you, sir. Haran, this actually what Greg was saying is a great segue to what you brought to us.
Yeah, when we sit back and we look at the great social media experiment and we see that it is broken into a series of silos and safe spaces for people to find comfort in their beliefs and their ideas. In many ways, these are in some ways religious sects on a micro level. These people are finding, avenues to get away from the convictions of the outside world. They create these private groups to not be judged and challenged, just like these cults back in the days and so on and so forth. So what I'm sitting here is saying is that at the end of the day, when you look at it, these people are trying to find utopias or some concept of it. So I asked myself, is it really about the God gene, people believing in a higher power, or is it about human beings constantly seeking utopias, constantly seeking heaven? Because even when you have these conversations that you're having right now, we have to let's remove the ideas of atheists. Let's remove the idea of religious, religion believer. Let's just talk to each other as human beings and think for a second that this is really about the management and the idea of dealing with suffering and the concept of mortality. You have one sect of people who want to deal with the idea of mortality right now, and the problem with evil right now, and you have one sect of people who are constantly not even thinking about it, but they're thinking about life after it, as if they're disconnecting themselves or detaching themselves from what's happening right now because they believe that there's a place beyond this. So we have two schools of thinking where one person is worrying about, well, if your God is this, blah, 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 why isn't he fixing this right now? Because those people, they're not even thinking about life after this, because most of the time they're like, this is it. You know what I mean? Why isn't this shit being fixed now? But those people are divorced from that idea because they think about life beyond that.
I love that because people say, well, I've heard people say this before. Well, I'd rather believe in it just in case, right? I hear that a lot. So it's not that I wouldn't consider that conviction. It's just, hey, just in case.
That means
let me
you
get
don't
on in it.
believe.
Let me
I think
right.
that's
Let me hold
wager,
on.
they
Let me
call it.
finish. Hold on. Let me finish. So I hear that a lot, right? So it's like, let me buy this ticket just in case, right? And I'm the opposite. I'm like, well, no, let me live all the way the fuck out loud because I don't know if there's something on the other side. So I'm not about to, I was hoping, wishing, and praying there was something on the other side, and then we're dead, and it's fucking eternal blackness. So I'm the opposite. But with what you said, Haran, it sounds to me, at the risk of being insulting to some religious people. And again, this is not about Christians. Please, I literally beg people to come up here from all walks of life and all different religions. The Christians are the ones that pull up. So this is these are the people we have to have the conversation with. If you are Muslim, if you're a theist, if you're agnostic, if you're atheist, whatever you are, we wanted you to come up. Okay, you guys hit me after the fact. I try to get you up here now. Only the Christians pop up. That's not my fault. We're going to have the conversation with whoever pulls up. With that said, Haran, let me ask you a spicy question. What's up, Misty? And Bar is back. Oh, now it's a party. Would you say that? Look how he pull up. Hold on, somebody got a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Bar, I think that's you. Is that you? I can't even mute the mic. Okay, yeah, that was you. All right. Somebody's trying to get in. You snooze, you lose, baby. I don't know who it is, but we're full until somebody drops.
Unless you're a Muslim, we'll find room for you.
Yeah, if you're a Muslim, throw it in the chat. If you're a Muslim, throw it in the chat. We'll bring you up.
I will give my seat up for a Muslim brother. I will give my seat up. So, yeah, please,
okay.
Any Islam apologists, please.
Okay, so my question is, Haran, the way you explain that, and if I removed myself, that was Mr. Justin. He said he's no Muslim. If I was to remove myself, right, from what it is I believe and don't believe, and I'm just listening to what you said logically, one of those groups sounds more realistic than the other. Just my opinion. If I'm just like, who are these people? And you're like, well, this group believes this and this group doesn't believe because of this. I'll be like, well, one is more realistic because the other one is depending on something they can't see, hear, touch, taste, ever read in a couple books, some men wrote a bajillion years ago and was translated and translated and translated. It sounds like fuckery, right? But again, I say at the risk of being sounding disrespectful, but I'll pass the mic.
You know what, Haran? It was when you said that, I was thinking about my ex, right? We got into it one time, because I was talking about I was talking about, like these are the things I want to do. I want to travel. I want to do this. And he was a person with like absolutely no ambition. And he was like, well, why do I? Because he was religious. And he was like, well, I don't need to travel. I don't need to do those things because when I go to heaven, and I'm like, I don't even have a response to that. I don't even. You win. You win.
Yeah.
I can't argue with crazy. Like I don't
George,
understand.
George, that link that you just dropped, if you could get in contact with that guy, we'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, be glad to. Yeah, he's a bona fide archaeologist, and he's talked about different aspects of it. Just trying to, as I'm sure Greg and anybody up here would agree, that if you can line up his actual historical events to what a certain document talks about, it gives strength to the validity of that document. Whether we're talking about the Declaration of Independence or something in the Bible or something in Buddhist scriptures or whatever it is, So yeah, I will.
Can I just want to point out for Haran, I love the way you describe social media as silos. Like, and I would go so far as to call a church or a temple a very literal echo chamber, where your own ideas are reflected back to you, and the ceilings are so high that it will literally echo back to you. And I think that there's something really interesting that you touched on about people struggling for a utopia, and this idea that there's a right series of things to put in the right order to achieve that utopia. And I think that that's directly connected to our idea of purpose, that if we somehow discover our purpose, that we achieve that utopia. But again, purpose, I think, is also something that falls under predestination. And I think our purpose is just to exist. You're just here. You live your life how you can. Don't be an asshole. It doesn't seem to be that hard of a thing to just not be a dick. But
Greg, that's how simple I see life. But some people just refuse to accept that. They're like, there's a reason, and you got to find who made us. And I don't have that. We spoke about the God gene before. I was like, my brain must be damaged because I was not born with the God gene. I don't give a fuck. I'm not even curious. I don't go outside and look at a waterfall and beautiful flowers. Who made these? I'm just like, let me smell these flowers. Let me get in this waterfall, because we don't know when the clock stops, right? That's how I'm thinking. I'm not racking my brain, but there must be a God, because we don't know how long we have here. The only evidence I have of life is that we're gonna die, right? So that's how I'm thinking about it. But some people refuse. It's like they need, and I'm like, no, you, like everything else that lives and dies, that is the purpose. Live and die. And we claim we're the thinking animals, so think.
I think it's just because we're the first animal to recognize that reality. Like, we're the first animal to look at someone who looks like us and see them die and apply that to our own situation. Like, holy fuck, that happened to that guy, that happened to that guy, it's going to happen to that guy, and it's probably going to happen to me. And we need a way to be able to sleep at night and not just like fucking murder each other as the primitive species that we were. So you needed to introduce some kind of hierarchy and structure just to keep people in line. Patton Oswalt has a great bit about this where he talks about sky cake, and that's the reward, is this cake you get in the sky. But the other religion's like, well, for me, it's a sky muffin, so fuck you, I'm gonna murder all of you. And it's like, really, the cake and the muffin are just this kind of idea of a reward that you get for not like raping and murdering everybody in your village. And
so let me ask this, because I love what Mr. Justin said here, because this is how I see it too.
I agree.
He says the feeling I get from many theists is that this world is just a place to wipe one's feet before going to heaven. So let me ask you a question, George. Have you ever not put yourself in a better situation, or have you not strived for something, or have you chosen to suffer or not live out loud because you're like, it don't matter anyway, because them pearly gates are coming and that's going to be my reward. So it doesn't matter what doesn't work out here because I have the promise, of them pearly gates and that cake. Have you ever found yourself doing or saying that?
Absolutely. No. In fact, I wouldn't have a master's degree and all that kind of stuff if I didn't want to better myself. Right. But even Jesus talks about, he gives a parable about these talents. You probably heard of them. He gave one like 5, the other one 3, and the other one 1. I believe that's the numbers. And anyhow, he expected them to go out and grow the investment. He comes back, 2 of them had done a good job, and so he increases what they have. And the one who just sat on his money, he actually, they condemned him for that. So you can take from that. I'm not saying that's the main point of that passage, but you can take from that there is an expectation to do good for yourself and also for society in life, and stuff like that. Like I've been to soup kitchens and helped out and stuff, like donated things like that, but I agree with Mr. Justin. He's right. There's a lot of people who are so heavenly minded, they do no earthly good. And so I think that's a fair criticism.
I would say then, would you agree with a statement that you should work as hard to make heaven on earth as you would make in heaven?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
That would be the responsibility of a good Christian.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Let's pass the mic to Misty and Bar. Welcome, family. How are you, Misty? What have you heard so far you want to respond to? Yeah, we can hear you, Bar.
Misty looking extra cute tonight. Okay, I see you, girl.
Hey.
He's like, I'm ready for the block. What happened?
Like, hold up.
Period. Period.
I just put on lipstick. That was it.
Sometimes that's all it takes, baby. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Take much.
If I can ask the panel something real quick, do you all think that you have free will? If there's, or do you really believe that it's just strictly fate?
Well, let Misty answer first before everybody else jumps in, because she was about to speak anyway.
Sure. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You're fine. Basically, going back to the like how you live your life on the planet, and because was the saying that this world is a dirty rag, that's what it says, or something like that. I saw on that popped up or whatever. I think that the way that, especially as Catholic, the way that I was raised, again, indoctrination, brainwashing, whatever you want to call it, you're forced to live your life in a good way. Otherwise, they put it in and instill it in you that you're going to end up, burning in hell for all eternity. As a Latina, if they didn't use hell, it was La Llorona. Like, La Llorona's going to come get you. Whatever. They had different ways of keeping you in line. Now you see Elf on the Shelf. So it's kind of goes to the same thing. But there's something there that they have to kind of like instill in you this moral compass to like force you to stay in line. So to me, I feel like it's ingrained in you from a very young age, and like even when you get older and you realize, oh my God, that was a lie, or that's not the truth, or that's not 100%, or you start to see things differently. Like, it's been a part of you for so long that it feels different to go against that. Mm-hmm. But I do also want to state that I have also seen the extreme. I had an ex that I dated for about 3 years, and he was homeschooled, and he was a devout Christian. I forgot. I think he was an Anglican or a Pentecostal. I can't remember. But anyway, his thing was God will provide. So like he wouldn't do things because he's like, if God wanted me to have it, then God will provide. And I'm just like, no, you have to work. You have to earn what you're getting. And so we would get into these debates because I'm like, yes, God's going to provide, but he's only going to provide so much. He needs to see that you're doing something so that way you're doing your work so that way he can help you. But his thing was, well, if God wanted me to have it, it would happen. If God wanted me to have this job, then I would get it. And I'm just, so it's kind of like, sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent, but that's basically the point.
It's okay. I do want to, my answer is quick. I want to pull this comment from the chat. Is that Thai Imperial or the Imperial? Okay, my bad. The Imperial 97 says the concept of free will is nonsensical. I'm going to have to agree with that, because when I hear free will, I feel like it's attached to religion. I don't think there's such a thing. Now, we are free to do as we please unless someone stops us, tangibly stops us, or we die. But everybody's free to do whatever they want on this planet unless someone stops us, physically stops us, or we die. I don't believe that free will comes from some religious belief where it's like, well, God gave you free will. No, I'm free regardless, unless I am stopped from doing what I want to do. But it has nothing to do with, what God is allowing and not allowing. And I'll just back it up with this, then I'll pass the mic to Bar because he hasn't spoken yet. Henry Mars says, how can we have free will when the Christian God knows the future? God is what is that word again?
Omnipresent.
Omnipotent. Yeah, omnipotent.
Okay.
Omniscient kind of
so that
omniscient, he means all knowing. That's what
right. So then that's also so then that trumps someone religious saying I have free will. Then that trumps that. You don't have free will because God already got you scheduled out.
So I have to ask
He gave you an itinerary. God gave you an itinerary. So how do you have free will?
Well, yeah, that's the reason why I brought it up. It's an interesting, it's even in Christian circles when you sit down and talk about this and try to get the two concepts lined up together. It's really hard. I got to be honest. There's certain concepts within Christianity, like God's omniscience, omnipotence, and all that stuff. And then you've got free will. Jen, free will, I think, is even though it comes from religion, but I think it's a universal principle that people, whether there was, let's just say there was not a God, you would have that no matter what. And so I just think that because in the way we interact with each other, but I'm saying that from the standpoint of, I was going to bring up another concept that we talked about in a couple of weeks ago. And the thing that the hardest thing for me to accept is that there's passages in the Bible, and I think even no saint read a scripture that kind of alluded to it, about God does what he does when he wants to do it and how he wants to do it. And there's passages in there where people like Job are questioning him. And he's basically saying, you know what? Don't tell me how to run my show. I do what I want to do. Does the pottery talk to the potter and tell him, he goes on and on and on. And that's a real hard pill to swallow. And I'm just trying to tell you that, I guess in one sense, that y'all's intellectual arguments with it is justified to a certain extent. And I think honestly what it boils down to is that it's that whole issue of faith and where you reason your way up to. And so if for some of you, it's like, no, I can't, that's a bridge too far, I can't do that, then then that's the way that is for you. But the thing about the one thing I would say also I've noticed in the scriptures, there's a lot of paradoxes. Jesus talked a lot about them. The whole concept of give, it's better to give than to, give it instead of receiving, all these things. It was counterintuitive that, the way he kind of indicated that the way that the kingdom of heaven operates is counter to our own desires and stuff like that. And how we, it's really, I guess what I'm trying to say, this stuff is complicated, and I get it and I understand it when people don't get it and they think that, God is some awful God. But, the thing I would like to ask is, what about the goodness then?
I just want to ask one quick question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. Wait. Let's be fair. People waiting, and there's a lot of people up here. Bar, what do you think about? Do you want to answer George Cook's question? What do you think about free will? And then we'll keep passing the mic.
Yeah. So I'm kind of. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Clearly.
So I feel like when someone asks, like, "Do you believe we have free will?" I feel like it's loaded because the only free will I know of is from when I was religious. That's where my idea of free will comes from. So when someone asks me that, it's kind of like, if I say yes, am I like, giving a religious? I don't want. If there's another term or another thing we can call that,
I call
other
it
than
power
free
of
will,
choice.
I will call it.
I call it power of choice.
I'll call it power of choice. I don't want nothing to do with their phrases, the terminology. I don't like the terms, because it's like, if I say, yeah, we got free will, somebody who don't know no better, they might associate me, or they might say, well, it's kind of like, the words you use and how you say things, people can take it and run with it. So when someone asks me, I'm like, man, look, I don't know. I say no. That what the type of free will you talking about? Nah, but I'll say power of choice. So give me something else to call it, and we can
How
call
about
it that.
self-determination? How's that one?
Yeah, something like that. Also,
Saying free
Greg, I
will
really
feels like capitulating to religion, like it was something given to you as opposed to something you're inherently born with.
There you go.
right. I like your commentary earlier. I was like, yes.
Thanks,
Because
man.
Greg, man, listen to me, man. I went live for like 7 hours, and if you go through my video, you'll see it's like a picture of Jesus Christ's head on Spider-Man's body on his torso, and the name of the stream was "With great power comes great responsibility." And what you said earlier about like if you have the power to stop shit on a massive, large, huge scale, you kind of it's like your duty to do so. And when you was talking, I was like, man, he preaching the gospel. I'm feeling the Holy Ghost.
See,
Well,
but,
I was
then
listen,
that goes back to what Haran said. When none of this shit makes sense, religious people just fall back on, well, just
God
in
works in
case, which
mysterious
means,
ways.
right, which means it goes back to the utopia. I just want the feeling that there's something out there taking care of me. It's a wonderful feeling. Isn't it a wonderful feeling to think that something cares about you? It's warm and fuzzy. So I think that's where it comes from. It's just a utopia. Like, no, there's a God. No matter what happens, he's here taking care of us. It is you building your own utopia, but I think it's imaginary for sure. It's no different than, Santa Claus is coming to take care of me. The Tooth Fairy is coming to take care of me. And things like
The
that.
politicians are coming to take care of me.
There's something real quick, just on something that George said. So I know in the story of Job, the way he just punishes this guy relentlessly over and over and makes the point that I'm God, I do what I want. And then later in the Bible, he says, what you hold true on earth, I'll hold true in heaven. That's how shit like plenary indulgences were allowed to happen in Catholicism, where you could buy your way into heaven. You went to the Catholic Church, you gave them a shit ton of money because you were rich, and then the Pope would give you an indulgence, free you from all your sins, and you were allowed to cross the pearly gates. So if God runs shit how he wants, then why does he capitulate to humanity in a later passage by saying, what you hold true on earth, I'll hold true in heaven? That puts us in the driver's seat. And if we're inherently flawed and keepers of original sin, and we're this like fucked up species that's pretty much doomed from the minute that we're born, that doesn't sound like someone who's omniscient and all wise and all knowing should be handing the keys over to that. That's literally like letting the proverbial monkey drive the car. And we don't let monkeys drive the car.
Of course, I disagree, but if your line of logic is sound, I mean, on that, I have to agree with you. But on that, but
it's just what's in there,
The question I'd like to ask then, we talk about a lot about the bad, but is it possible that what about the Bible talks about, it says that he causes it to rain on the just and the unjust. So when there's good things that happen, so why doesn't atheists come to the conclusion that, evidently maybe God's allowing some good things to happen? And what's the answer to that?
I would say the good in my this is just my opinion, but when it comes to God, the good does not outweigh the bad. Like if you help 5 grandmothers cross the street, Yahweh, and then you let 50 kids drown, or you let a whole school get shot up full of toddlers, it's gonna be hard for me to say, well, that's not even. You know what I'm saying? The amount of good he does, it's like if he's doing it, the bad just stomps that shit. Like, damn, he helped me get a new car. I found my keys. Motherfuckers was hanging, swinging from trees, y'all. So it's like, how can what we gonna do? It's not even the same. Even if
sunsets are beautiful, but God didn't do that because he was busy giving AIDS to babies in Africa.
Right.
So I agree. I co-sign with what Bar said. There is not 1 ounce of good that I've seen happen on this planet that outweighs the bad that I've seen happen, where I can relate it to a God, right? If this God, if God exists, let's say, if he exists, the filth the massacres, the things that have happened, if you're claiming there's a God that lets good and bad happen, I still say he's a fucking tyrant. He thinks humans are a joke and a plaything. He is a narcissist. He is a fucking asshole. He's also racist. I keep saying that. People ignore it. He's also fucking racist. Okay. So there, when someone says, well, what about the good that happens? What good? What do you mean by good? Like what good in comparison to what bad? Because I can give you bad that will drop your jaw. Drop your jaw. So what good?
I think the big problem too is that just religion in general, like you're only as good as the worst of you. That's how society's built. A society is only as good as its worst member. A religion is the same way. There's nothing I can say that is going to disprove the idea that there is some kind of greater cosmic knowledge or higher intelligence that exists. But once you attach a set of superstitions and rules, you congregate around it, you start creating laws based on what your interpretation of that thing is. I don't know how any human being that lives on this plane that we live on right now can assume to know the mind of something that is so fucking far past anything that you can imagine, that you have the ability, nay, even the right to interpret it and tell people to live their life based on your primitive interpretation of what, if even one of these religions is right, is the most advanced form of intelligence that has ever existed since the universe was a golf ball before it exploded into what it is.
I agree. I totally agree with that too, because exactly. That's why I said before, religion, people that are religious are fucking obnoxious. They're pretentious. They're fucking obnoxious. They really think that if there is a God or was a God, right, that they have any fucking inkling of what he says. And when you listen to religious people, they're constantly saying, God wants, God said, well, if God did, and who the fuck are you? You're a fucking peon. You're a blip on a radar. You're an algae on planet Earth. You're a mold. You are literally mold, okay, on planet Earth. Who the fuck do you think you are? And this is a general statement for all religions across the board. Who the fuck do you think you are, you peon? You live, you shit, you piss, then they're gonna put you in a hole in the ground, and then someone's gonna be born after you. Who the fuck do you think you are that you can say, well, God said, well, God wants? How the fuck do you know what God said and God wants? You sound crazy. It's just like me saying, well, the tooth fairy wants to give you some money, but you have to put the tooth under the pillow. It's no different. It's no different than me saying, well, Santa wants you to behave so he could bring you these presents. It's the same. It's like Santa Claus for adults. It is Santa Claus for adults.
And speaking of Santa Claus for adults, the elf on the shelf is just a bullshit surveillance mechanism. Don't use that shit with your kids. That shit is fucked up because all that's teaching them to do is be okay with giving up their privacy as a child for the fear that they won't be getting any presents. That's some bullshit.
An elf on the shelf. Is that a white people thing? Because I never got that.
Yes, and you know something? Now the Jews have it. We call it the mensch on the bench. And that's
the mensch on the bench.
It is the same fucking bullshit of this fucking surveillance.
Wait a minute. What's the elf on the shelf? Do they put an elf on the shelf that's watching you behave?
Like a stuffed elf that they put like throughout your house. Man. And they're like, they name it. It's like a whole fucking thing. And they name it. And they're like, so the elf on they usually start it like around after Thanksgiving. And they're like, so the elf on the shelf is watching you. So don't fuck around and do anything stupid or else you're going to get a lump of coal in your stocking.
I think when you look at when you look at fairy tales such as Santa Claus, Elf on the Shelf, the boogeyman in the closet, the fear, it's fear mongering, right? It's like, do this or else. Like, how do you not see that religion is the same shit just for adults? It is literally the same. Do this or else. Listen, the boogeyman wants you to behave or he'll come out. It's what we use with children. And then you grow up and your brain is supposed to grow up with you. Well, it's like Arrested Development.
The modern version of it is so much more sanitized too. The Santa Claus legend has a little guy who follows him around that kidnaps bad kids and then feeds them to his fucking Krampus monster. This shit
it's really dark. Yeah, it's really dark when you look at the
history. So what's the difference between that and God feeding you to the devil and letting him burn you forever in eternal hell? It's the same shit.
One was just created by men 6,000 years ago, and one was created by Coca-Cola. the
To be clear and be honest, human beings are essentially fucking children. And I've said this 1,001 times before. We need reason. Very few of us are actually capable of rational thought. We are children. We need something to say. And I've said this before, Jen. Every single religious text at the core level is telling you behave, behave, behave. Don't do this shit. Behave, because somebody thousands and thousands of years ago understood that at the end of the day, our core nature, we are disgusting, we are horrible, and we need to be policed. And without rules, we are terrible. Jen, I wanted to talk to you about what you said earlier. You said something about that God has you on a schedule.
Yes, itinerary. He gives you an itinerary when you're born. He's like, you're born in sin, and this is what you're going to do because I already know before you even fucking do it. Here you go. Next.
Now, take that for a quick second, though. Take that for a quick second. If you're on his schedule, then he's also on his schedule on getting involved with your life by design. He knows when to get involved. So that means he's on a schedule, and he has to adhere to a schedule. So is that God free himself or itself?
It's a busy man.
That's the second set of footprints.
I believe he's timeless. He's timeless. That time and space doesn't apply to him.
I'm sorry, that was funny.
He doesn't necessarily have it himself because he has to adhere to all these schedules. You know what I mean? I pop out. He's got a schedule. He's got Heron's schedule. You know what I mean? He's got the moment where I got, strippers and cocaine covered all into me, where I wrap a Maserati around a tree. You know what I mean? Then I go find him and cry my eyes out. And then I'm a saved person, right? You know what I mean? He has to be on schedule. That's the point that I'm making here. So it just doesn't make sense in many ways. He seems like a slave to his own situation.
Yeah, I don't think he's saying that he can't be in more places at once than he wants. I think what he's saying is that if he predetermines something, then how much free will does God even have if he has to jump to you to help you and jump to me to help me, even if it's at the same time? I can accept a being that doesn't adhere to the laws of time and space. I could totally accept the idea of a cosmic knowledge and cosmic intelligence that doesn't work on the same plane that we do, that works in 10 dimensions. But again, to be so arrogant and bold and have so much hubris to attach a set of beliefs and routines and superstitions around that thing that probably, if something like that exists, it doesn't know that you do.
I think
care what you're doing
I don't
with your
think
day.
you can make that claim. I mean, it's.
But
for example, you're saying that if he wants you to live in a certain way, wouldn't you think that he would communicate in a way to you in a way of certain principles? Let's just take stuff that
I think
we all agree on, like the basic things about murder and lying and cheating and stealing. Those things right there, basic instructions for life that he's written out. He's
what's not in there? Rape.
Don't rape. Like religious scriptures. Forget Christianity for a minute. Any religion, that if he's communicated through some scriptures or through some shamans or whoever, don't you think that he could communicate through that kind of thing too for us? Or is that,
I think if a God is omniscient, it can just stand in front of you and say what it wants and do that to every single person at the same time because it's omniscient.
Like he can come on social media.
I mean,
I just don't know why God needs to be so
we're kind of, you were talking about arrogant. I think we're in a way kind of being the hubris ones here because we're saying, God, you got to get on my schedule, buddy. You got to conform to what I think, and I'm judging you by my standards.
Oh no, I'm saying that
doesn't work that way. I judge you. You don't judge me. And I think again that comes back to the principle I was talking about earlier about his omnipotence. Is that man? In the end, we have a tendency. We're so selfish that we think we're it. We're it's all for us, and he's like, no, it's all for me, and I do what I do, and that part about why he does it in a certain way, I have to admit to you that hits me.
Because I mean. But why don't he just go live and just solve this whole problem?
But he doesn't. You said what he does. What has he done?
Like you're saying God that we're arrogant because we think this is all for us.
Well, yeah, in a way you're trying to fit him in your construct
over the planet.
But that's what religion. Wait, George. That's what no, I think it's the opposite, George. That's what religious people do.
Yeah, they think that because
Religious,
they have their
religious,
God backing them. that it's
right?
for them.
Religious people are arrogant. They're the ones that are constantly telling you what their God is doing, and it's not just Christians. It's everyone who believes in a God, some gods or gods. That's why I said it's very obnoxious. It's a very arrogant thing. Religion is a very arrogant thing because
It comes off like he's picking
everyone,
winners and losers.
right? Exactly. It's very,
Wow.
it's obnoxious. Like, well, my God, blah blah blah. My God's better than your God. That's why I said it's like sports. Everyone's just wearing a different fucking religious jersey.
Well,
It's
plus
George.
sports.
it doesn't help
is
that
it-
the Bible, the way that it's written, is it's written in such a way that it's open to
Interpretation.
multiple interpretation. So, well, you could interpret it one way, somebody else could interpret it another way, and then right there you're clashing heads over the same phrasing because you're interpreting it the way that you want to interpret it.
We can't interpret a 275-year-old document, our own constitution, without constantly trying to fucking kill each other over it. You think that we're capable of interpreting a 60,000 or 6,000-year-old text that was supposedly written by, again, a 10-dimensional being that we have no concept of how to wrap our minds around? Just how, like, it's so full of contradiction because the idea of it is so fucking bananas that there's no real way to wrap your head around it. So the only thing you can do is try to use your dumb 10% of your brain that we've evolved to be able to use with body parts in us, like an appendix and shit that have like no point anymore. We use this meat suit to try to interpret the thoughts and ideas and rules surrounding a 10-dimensional being.
You know, Greg, I got to concede.
Rather ambitious.
Like, have you ever seen where you disagree with somebody, but you don't have the right answer to come back to them? That's where I'm at right now with you. And so
Fair
I
enough, man.
got to think about that. You know,
So,
To be honest, you're better than
Fair point,
90% of
Greg.
other people because at least you're willing to say that. So kudos
Right.
to you.
Right.
So,
Just-
really
Sorry,
quickly, it's okay. Rosalind Royal says your description of yourself being selfish and God being selfish sounds the same. Sounds the same to me too, sis. Justin asked an interesting question. He said, panel, if you were the supreme being of reality, could you come up with a better means of sharing your message than the printed word? Consider literacy rates through time. I want Spro to answer because he's got to go.
Tonight.
So something I've to be quite honest, I'm kind of, I don't want to say over the conversation. This is part 3. This is the end. And in my honest opinion, I don't think, and I say this with love, even this goes for the theists, including myself. I don't think any of us really are equipped right now to have, like, I mean, I'm not calling for a part 4 or anything. This kind of talk, I mean, like, it's fun and like we're bringing up different things and like it's cool that like everyone is respectful and like we can have like just a conversation and just kind of bullshit about it. But it's really layered. So just to address Mr. Justin's question, and then I want to give one final statement because I do have to go. If I was a supreme being of reality and I could come up with a better means of sharing my message than a printed word. If me personally, if I was a supreme being of reality, I would do whatever I wanted to do. And if I made an intelligence or whatever, or regardless, I want that. You got to get on my program, me personally. And I think that's just how everybody is. I would argue that everyone would be like, look, if I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Now, the argument I'm guessing is like, oh, like, why would a supreme being do that? Because that's what they wanted to do. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm not saying that's what someone else would do. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So that's a good argument for it. So would I do it that way? I'm not saying I would based off of my understanding, but if I'm a supreme being, I'm this central intelligence that has the power to manifest and just create things and breathe life into whatever. I'm don't question me. I'm going to tell you what it because something that has come up in all 3 of these panels is, I think, the problem of evil. That's like an easy one. It's an easy and hard one. And this goes for both the theists and the atheists, because it's like, I feel like there are some really scholared theists that can own some atheists. And then there's some really scholared atheists that can own the hell out of some theists with it. The problem of evil, it's like, oh, like, why would a God who's love allow, like, you know, like, toddlers to be shot up or whatever. And like, it's a very reasonable argument. It's emotionally persuasive, but it doesn't introduce any consideration that hasn't already been addressed in any of the earliest writings of the church or Christianity or even scripture in general. And one thing that I think, and I think this is more of a Western thing, when we're talking about religion, theism, or atheism, and again, Jen is right. This goes for all religions, because like her whole point is this isn't Christianity versus that, but unfortunately, there's only Christians here. Greg, you're Jew? Because you said you mentioned earlier something about
Yeah, so
secular?
I was actually raised Jewish. My
You were raised Jewish?
father,
Okay.
my grandfather's was 100% Seneca Indian on my father's side, and that's, if I had to align with something, it would probably be something closer to that.
Okay, but that still makes you like, that's still a different perspective than like what has
Sure.
been so far on the panel. So like that, even if you're an atheist,
I think I'm more agnostic.
like any theism or any religion or anything like that at all, dig it.
God.
You've given some of the best arguments in the night, but these things again, which is, I've said this each panel, it's the claims. What does each faith claim? And in the West, there aren't a lot of Christians, Jews, or even Muslims, especially in the States, that can honestly back up what it is that they claim. It's, as far as Christianity, to me, earlier was said something, it's basically cope. It's copium. It's people to give an explanation to like evil, and like, oh, like you get something good when you like, oh, because death is scary. Well, death, I don't want it to just be over, so you get something nice when it's to the end. Me personally, when I came to the conclusion like, oh, there is a God and all evidence to my understanding points to this, I did not like it at all. I was not comforted by it. It horrified me. I did not look at it as I was special or more better than anyone else, regardless of what I believed, because as far as my understanding and the research I did personally, like I really peeled it back. I didn't believe. And I just got into it and I started reading. And based off of that, I came to the conclusion on my own, based off of the research I did, that was true. And it had nothing to do with it being because it's not beneficial. It was not comforting at all. It was beautiful, yet it was haunting. And that's just for me. And honestly, I don't think that we're not, every single argument that I've heard like a non-scholared atheist bring up, it has been addressed in scripture. And then sadly, the people that claim to stand by scripture sadly just haven't studied it and don't understand it enough to even back up those points. It's not even to say what's right or what's wrong.
Scroll. You
Yeah,
always
I
do
know
this before you
his
leave. You
right,
always do this
And I
before
gotta
you leave.
go
You
with
throwing up,
stuff.
yeah, but you throw those
Yeah.
rocks and then you leave because because you should be, if you're gonna
This
put
guy
that out
kills
there,
me, man.
you should be able to do the points. But you're
Kills me.
accusing them of not being able to have the point.
Right.
But then you throw these rocks and then you leave. This is the
No,
third
I'm
time you've done
I'm
that.
saying both sides. I'm saying the theists do not understand. Like
Yeah, but
they
you're
don't
also
realize.
saying that you do.
bro.
You're saying that
You
you
Yeah.
do. You're claiming that you do and that you
Okay,
can
based
back it
off of
up.
But
my
we
But then
not,
you
but
leave.
we haven't heard it. We haven't heard it on 3 streams.
And
We
I'd like to
haven't
hear
heard it.
evidence.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
The
Did
man
he
just
claim that he
I
knew,
will-
or did he just say that other people don't?
He said he
know
got
how
the
much
He said he's got
I-
evidence.
If you will let me explain how I understand it, I will explain it. But personally, I will be talking the entire time.
shit. You
Well,
doing
you
that
do that
anyway?
anyway.
You do that anyway,
You do
and we
it anyway,
still don't get
bro.
an explanation.
Look, also a scholared atheist
Trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, bro.
would be an expert in fiction.
Thank you.
You know, from my seat.
Thank you.
So to
Thank
make
you,
an argument to say
David.
that, you know, to refer to scholared atheists as somehow better at the argument is a non-starter.
Right.
What
I was
I
like,
mean
what
It
the
is a
fuck does that
general
even mean?
disavowal
research.
because we
They've
don't
done
buy the
research.
concepts. We don't know who wrote any of these texts. None of them are the word of God, you know, thousands of years old and translated, you know, all of that stuff. I just don't buy it.
At least
But
you can
have
we
point
read
to
them?
Mother Goose
That's
and,
what I'm saying.
Aesop's
Have-
fables and go like,
He said
Hans Christian Andersen was full of shit, and Aesop was full of shit, or he was right.
Precisely.
What I'm saying is, have we
Interesting.
like? It's different. Again, it's not necessarily if you're right or wrong. I'm saying like, if you've read something and understand it, like personally, like right now, I'm trying to get through the Quran because I'm like, okay, well, I don't think that Islam is correct, but how can I say that if I don't understand it? So I need to see what they understand. I need to evaluate it myself. So what I'm arguing is, maybe we should understand a little more, because like honestly, I think a lot of atheists don't know what they're talking about, or people who claim it, and I think a lot of people who say that they're theists don't know what they're talking about. And again, it's based off of like what we're saying. It's not that they don't have
That's
good arguments.
nonsensical. That's
What
not.
about the
It's not.
agnostic?
That's not.
Yeah,
But
so
that's
that's why
What is this
nonsensical.
talking?
It's
An agnostic
nonsensical.
is
If I
different.
don't, but listen,
that's
if
not
I
a
say,
zoology class.
if I
Yeah.
say I don't believe in a thing, how can you tell me I don't know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm not saying
I
you
don't
don't know what
believe.
you're
I
talking
don't
about.
believe. No, I'm saying I don't
You don't
believe in a
believe in it.
thing. I don't. Right. So how can you say you don't know what you're talking about? You don't know what
We're
you don't
having
believe in.
because
Well,
we're
I don't
discussing it right
believe it.
now. That's why it's coming up. I wouldn't like in day-to-day life. I'm not like it really doesn't. I can't convince someone. Like if we're having a discussion, then yeah, I'm gonna give my point. And be like, oh, this is what I think. So it's not
Okay,
again.
so
It's not about
this is
convincing
the
anybody.
all right. This is basically what you said, Spro. Watch this. Do you believe in a tooth fairy?
No.
You don't know what you're talking about. You don't even know why you don't believe in the tooth fairy.
Because
You
you're
don't
not
know
a
what you're
tooth fairy
talking about.
scholar.
You
Yeah.
right. You're not a scholar in tooth fairy. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't even know why you don't believe in the tooth fairy. That's the equivalent of what you just
That's
said.
I think
crazy
the
to me.
problem too is that religion
That's what you
and
said.
theism kind of gets
I
conflated
personally don't
as
believe
being
in
the
the tooth
same
fairy. And
thing,
again,
and they're
that
not.
wasn't my point. I never attacked anybody, and that's something else that I've noticed. Like whenever the God conversation comes up, if you say you believe in God, and the same thing goes like if it was, let's say it was switched, let's say it was like two atheists on the panel and it was a bunch of theists, they would just it'd be like, oh, you and this, and you trying to tell me, and it's like, well, no, they're
Not
just
really.
giving their reasons why.
Well,
I'm
no,
not
but
trying to
wait a
convince
minute. No one.
nobody.
I hate
I'm
when
just
people
giving
start
my
using
reason.
that fucking word here. I
I
hate when
do
people start
too.
using that fucking word here. No one said that you attacked anybody. We don't feel attacked, and if we were to be attacked, everyone on the panel would know. We're just having a conversation. I just think it's silly. I think I pulled your card, and you don't have no comeback from it. I just said, do you believe in a tooth fairy? Right?
No
I don't.
bread
You
in your
don't
mouth.
believe it. You don't believe in a tooth fairy. I don't believe in God. But when I say I don't believe in God, it's because I'm not. I can't explain it because I'm not a scholarly atheist, and I don't know why I don't believe in it. And I'm posing the same thing to you. Are you not a scholarly tooth fairy non-believer? Because you don't even know. You can't even explain why you don't believe in a tooth fairy. Explain to me why
That
you
wasn't the
don't believe
point.
in
That
a
wasn't the
tooth
point that I was
fairy.
trying to make.
But just for shits and
I
giggles,
personally
for
don't
shits and
believe in a
giggles,
tooth
bro.
fairy based off of the
Why?
basis of what the purpose that a tooth fairy is said to serve. I can't see any explanation personally as to why that is needed or why.
Okay,
You
there you
just
go. That's
answered
why we're an
Jen's
atheist.
question.
Thank you.
I never argued that that's not
That's
why
it.
atheists think. I'm
There you
That's
saying
go, bro.
atheism. That's
Easy
I
money.
believe in a God.
atheism.
Hey, but
Put
I
your card
believe
on the
in the
table.
tooth
That's
fairy
easy
because
money,
I
baby.
got a quarter under my pillow
I'm not
every
trying to
single time.
disprove atheism.
You can't because
We,
it's not
we
a
don't
religion.
I
think
don't need
right.
I don't
We
need to
don't.
because I'm a theist.
No,
There's nothing to
we don't think
disprove.
you're trying. Right. We don't think you're trying to disprove. It's impossible. If
It's
I don't
just your
believe in a
views.
thing, I don't believe in a thing. But I'm just
The
saying
burden of
what you
proof is on
explain.
you.
You understand atheism very well because you just explained it with the tooth fairy. You understand it very well. So you're a scholar as well.
I already said I've said before, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist personally.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you.
I
I think
case
atheism.
for-
But I think when you look at religion versus atheism, it's like looking at light spectrums, right? So you either have there's light spectrums hold either color or the absence of color, and atheism is really just the absence of faith. It's not. It's the idea that there's no void in
No,
your life that
is that
needs to
the
be
dog?
filled by
Pray for
something
him.
that's above you that tells you how to live. And then there's the other side of it where you have the color, which is, I require this thing in my life to feel fulfilled or to feel hopeful or to feel like the world is just, right? That like the
Right.
world makes sense somehow. And sometimes the only way the world makes sense is if you force it to. And that
Right.
is kind of what religion is. It's us kind of jamming a square peg in a round hole, making us go against our nature as just another animal that lives on this planet to create some form of order. And what we've really done is just create systems of oppression. We've created systems of cultural oppression, systems of self-oppression. We've made us afraid of our own bodies, of our own means of reproduction. We've forced ourselves and pigeonholed ourselves into saying, well, you can only fuck this person and you can only procreate with this person and you should only marry this person. And I'll be honest, I went searching for answers. My mother died when I was a little kid, and that sent me down this rabbit hole of everything to try to understand, to wrap my head around why people were telling me, well, this was God and it's okay. And I was like, fuck you, it's not. There's no way he needs her more than I do. And so it sent me down a rabbit hole. I read the Torah growing up. I've read 4 or 5 different translations of the Bible. I've read the Quran. I've read Taoist writings. I've read Hindu writings. I've read Buddhist writings. I have gone through everything that I could go to come to an answer. And the answer that I came to and finally worked really hard to be comfortable with is there isn't one. We just exist.
Damn.
And maybe there's a higher intelligence. Maybe there's something grander than ourselves out there. I think it's arrogant to think that, again, that we are the end all be all of evolution or of species in the universe. But to say that your God doesn't like it when I jerk off, that just seems like really petty and kind of beneath a supreme being
never made that
to give a fuck about whether or not I'm still a seed on the ground.
He's speaking
Like I fuck a
generally.
dude or fuck a woman.
I
Like,
know.
it just feels like a really weird thing to me to be like this timeless supreme being that knows everything that's going to happen and has control and somehow is marionetting the whole thing while somehow also giving us free will. Gives a fuck where my dick goes. And you know what? He doesn't stop if it goes into a kid. And that's fucked up. That is fucked up that he wouldn't stop some shit like that. Like, or why he would put that thought, because if he knows you and if you're made in his image, why are there people out there who want to fuck children?
He's a pedophile too. So God is a narcissist, a racist, and a pedophile.
And again, that's
he's a tyrant.
Use their beliefs the way that they do. I don't mean to insult anybody. I'm trying to make a point that it doesn't require you to be a scholar to be able to look at something and just kind of think like A plus B equals C, and to go either God is completely agnostic to us and doesn't give a shit what we do, or he doesn't exist. And I'm cool with, I'm actually okay with either. My issue is really with religion, not with God.
Right.
That's most people's problem. And again, I think that I think even a lot of theists would say the same thing. And I think when we think of like religious people, it's a caricature that is not a good. Again, if we're talking about the ideas and the beliefs, that's why I'm saying I'm like, because it feels like that's the only kind of like example on that end. I mean, I could be wrong, but I do have to go, guys.
All right, good night.
Always love.
May the Lord be with
you.
Vaya con Dios.
If I was a
Always.
being, if I was
Can I say something real quick? The reason, just real quick, the reason why I hate when people separate religion and God. I hate when people say, it's my issues with religion. I don't believe in religion, but I believe in God. You learned of a God through religion. It didn't drop on your head one day you were asleep. You learned about a God through religion. Now you can separate them if you like after the fact. You can take the onions out the stew. I don't really like them, but they were in the fucking stew. You learned about a God through religion. You learned about a God through religion. It came
my
through
point in separating that
religion.
Is, God was the wrong word to use. My word really is a higher level of intelligence or being that has no rules attached to it, and it just is something that exists.
Okay, but let me challenge that. Wait, let me challenge that though. Where did that idea even come from? Like you woke up one day and said, I think there's something bigger than this. Where did that idea come from? Honestly speaking.
Truthfully, honestly, it came from religion. My idea around it evolved through other practices that are not really religious and are just
but understand that the idea, my point is the idea of it. Now you custom fit it. You were like, oh, I could take I like the idea of this all-knowing.
I think it's also scientific. Like it once again, I think one of the big problems with atheism is that it assumes that we're the end result. And like I said before, I don't think that we are. It's the same argument around.
Well, I'm an atheist, and I don't think that.
Statistically,
I don't think we're the end result.
He doesn't have your some, but not all thing.
There's like 40,000 planets in the Goldilocks zone that could support life. And to assume that we're the highest intelligence, that's what I'm talking about. But I don't. But you have but we be an alien.
Okay, we gotta do this. We gotta do this, right? Because I'm an atheist, and I don't believe that means some, not all. Literally, it's English. Some, not all. So, you know, I don't believe that we're the end all be all. I really see us like another animal on fucking earth that is born, eats, shits, and then dies. I don't think we're the end all be all. I think we're a bunch of pretentious, obnoxious assholes. Humans ruin everything. Honestly, I think we're a virus on earth, and I think earth purges every now and then. People are like, no, natural disasters, earthquakes, storms, pandemics. It's because the earth is like, get the fuck off of me.
But
you
then
virus.
That's an assumption of a higher intelligence.
But
if
listen,
the Earth
listen.
is consciously
No,
doing
it's
that.
not. No. But that's not a higher
That's not literal.
intelligence.
Those are just
It's right. It's
natural
not
checks and
literal.
balances.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
It's
not
a
literal. Like
literal statement.
the
Like
Earth is like
thinking.
right. It's just like an immune system. What I'm saying is about religion is that I call it atheism light. When people say, I don't do religion, but I believe there's a higher power. Now, it still came from religion. You just custom fitting it. You just cutting off the fat, right?
Yep.
And eating the chicken breast. But it is religion light. It is religion light.
But I'm not saying that there is. I'm conceding there could be.
Right, but
That's
I'm
my
saying
point.
if you were, I'm saying if you drop a child in the middle of a forest and somehow it fucking survives, that kid is not going to grow up thinking there's more to it. The kid's going to be thinking shelter, heat, and fucking food. It's not going to be thinking, oh my God, something must have made the leaves.
Native American belief systems where they weren't exposed to Christianity or Islam or any Western
religion. It's a belief system.
But they developed an idea that there are higher intelligence.
Because that is what humans do. That is what humans do. And
isn't it possible that
Native Americans, no, because a lot of us are born without it. I was born not needing or wanting or desiring or thinking a waterfall. There must be a God. There are a lot of people out here that think the complete fucking opposite. Humans are not a monolith. Everybody is so different. My thing, and then I'll pass the mic. My thing with religion is it retards the brain. It retards the brain. You said earlier, you have to force it, right? You have to make sense of it. And that's what people do. My child died. My dad died. My mom, I have to make sense of it somehow. And then a relative or a pastor or preacher says, well, you know what? You can't question God, and God does things in his own time. And it was God divine's timing. And God says who stays and who goes, like the claw in Toy Story. The claw. How do you get out? The clause says who stays and who goes. It's the same fucking thing. And I don't like anything that retards my brain. I don't like liquor and drugs or whatever's going to fuck weed or whatever people know. It's good. It's medicinal. If it fucks with my brain, I don't want it. Be it relationship, friendship, relative, drugs, liquor, whatever. And religion retards the brain. It kills your self fucking determinism. If you don't get something, you blame it on God. If you get something, then you depend on God gave it to you. It retards your brain. I think it's abusive to children too, by the way. But Mr. Justin, you were saying.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that you can always tell an intellectually honest theist when they're able to say, "I don't know." That is the most intellectually honest thing to ever say. Is just say, "I don't know," because there's so much that we don't know, and it's okay to just say, "I don't know," instead of saying, "Oh, this thing tells me so." Because are you sure? Like, are you sure? No, you're not. You're not. It's a best guess. And that's where that big gap is, where faith lies. But I was thinking about this, and so we're all this, like in certain parts of the world, right? Where I guess from a theist perspective, we are privileged, right? Because we weren't born in some remote area of the desert or some remote jungle region, right? Who has no connection with any other culture for hundreds of years, okay? So they don't get the word of God, okay? And if you don't get the word of God, you are banished to hell. So they're just screwed by luck of the draw, by their family heritage, by migration, by whatever that actually God knew about from the beginning of time. So he knew that they were going to end up where they were going to end up, knew that they were going to never, ever hear his word generation after generation, and yet still just said, that's interesting. I guess I'll just let it fly. Right.
That was literally the first question I asked my mother.
And like that's that. So in a sense, it's condoning it. Like whatever you allow, you're in a sense condoning, right? So that's something I was thinking about today, and it's like it's kind of messed up in that sense.
It's a statistical probability that aliens exist, and that means that they're all going to hell.
Yes.
So if you go to hell, it's going to look like the Mos Eisley Cantina from
all the
Star Wars.
exoplanets, all the exoplanets out there, they're toast.
Let me
Good,
jump in.
that's,
Yeah, they're all fucked.
unless they can make it
30,000
to church, unless
statistically
they
in the
can
known
make it to
universe.
church by Sunday morning.
Right. How about droids? They're good though, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
They don't have
Yeah,
soul.
yeah.
Thank
AI
God.
As long as
yes,
K2SO is good, I'm good. So.
Justin,
AI
I
is
wanted
that.
you. I wanted Justin to expound on the comment that you said about the one that I just took down. Fuck it. Fuck, I lost it. You said
I'm
something
curious
about
Justin's answer
you
to his
said
own question.
right. It's a question you asked Justin. You said if I don't even know if it's a question. I think it was a statement. You said if God wrote the Bible or allowed people to write the Bible, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
Supreme being, how would you get your message out?
The
Right,
text
and
is fallible.
Spro keenly avoided actually answering the question. Like, he just said, like, well, I would just do whatever I wanted to do. But the question is, if you were a supreme being, could you come up with a more efficient means of delivering information than the printed word?
Okay, it wasn't that one.
Absolutely.
It wasn't that one.
Oh,
Make
Yeah,
a movie.
you're omniscient.
No,
you
that
stand in
was the
front
one
of
that I
every
asked.
person.
stand in front of every
ever
person and
tell
show them. Yeah.
This is what I do, and this is what I
Easy
do.
money.
If I was a superior being, I wouldn't have created us. I would
have made us in a better meat suit.
but
Not
I would have stopped at the
wait
Z.
one second. Wait one second. I need to get this out. I need to really get this out because look, man. I mean, have you seen some of us? I mean, like a superior being actually created Donald Trump. Like, if that, have you seen that? Anyway,
he took his time with me. I don't know about it.
Understand this. We serve absolutely no celestial purpose. We are litter that someone left on the stoop. It just takes up space and stinks. And we are not a linchpin to the universe. If we were wiped out tomorrow, it would be as if we were never here.
I think my dog would care.
If that is the case, by proxy,
It's like, where's my food? I'm sorry.
it's useless.
And what kind of all-knowing being puts the genitalia needed to reproduce on the outside of the body? What fucking genius came up with that? It is so easily damaged.
No, it's
just
true.
end the
It's
fucking
true.
race. It is
It's
we
true,
are
though.
made of the dumbest thing.
The same one that came up with
what? I
platypus.
think
Our
that's
backs hurt all the time because we should still be walking around on all fours. Our bodies haven't evolved yet so that our spine can handle Earth's gravity. That's why we all have fucking back problems. Like,
you know what
is a mistake.
I think that's why people, even though people like asking it, no one seems to know how to answer it, or they make up their own shit. What's the purpose of life? I really like going back to what Haran said. If we were, what purpose do we humans? What purpose do we serve on the planet? How do we help the planet? You know how other animals is like, well, this animal eats this, so that prevents that, and this animal attaches to this, so that prevents that. What is the purpose of humans on Earth? Not the purpose of life. I'm not asking that. What is the purpose of humans on Earth? And are we fulfilling that? Are we part of the ecosystem that helps the Earth? Yay or nay?
I think we used to be. But because we have an industrious mind, we have separated ourselves from the ecosystem.
So how did we used to be? I want to know.
Well, I'm
because
saying
we were
like,
participatory in the food chain. Like,
right, like if you look at
saber-tooth
like
tigers
certain like
in
Native
Yemen.
American tribes, or you go even further back to like, you know, say Cro-Magnon, right? We were probably closer to being animals than, you know, anything. So like that's where we made sense. But when we started making tools and to separate ourselves and start making shit and building stuff and homes and like, you know, just separating ourselves from the environment, I think that's when, you know, things started changing.
So I wasn't clear. What was
use
our
the word
purpose?
purpose.
What did we do?
What
good were we?
I can answer that.
What good were we to the planet is what I'm asking. What good were we to the planet?
To the planet by that extension.
I just answered that there are animals that do certain things that help the Earth function. There are many. There are many in the ocean, and out on Earth. Okay. I'm just saying, what purpose did we? Right. What purpose did we have
to the ecosystem?
That's what I'm asking.
Fertilizer. My answer, and this is
fertilizer.
Is that
oil?
That's a good fertilizer.
Hey,
the
flex needed. I get it.
Your body houses so many bacteria, so many different types of things live inside of your gut bacteria. Our purpose, first of all, purpose implies predestination. It implies that there's some reason that we're here. There most likely isn't. We evolved out of the ground like any other plant, like any other animal. Our brain just developed in a certain way. Our eyes moved to the front because we were predators and we eventually became the apex predator over the course of our brains becoming smarter and using things like tools and guns and knives and cutting down trees and shit like that. But the truth of the matter is, for the longest time, we were part of the food chain. Like, that's just who we were. We were an animal like anything else. We had
Mr.
to
Justin,
run
I
and
do.
hide.
The only
Mr. Justin,
thing-
I remember. Mr. Justin, I remember. You
sorry.
said that
Yeah,
the writings is not becoming of a supreme being. It was something along those lines. Do you remember? You wrote something like that.
Oh yeah. That just
Curious to see what it was.
you know, using the printed word isn't becoming of a supreme being because it's foul. It's highly fallible. I mean, we've all played telephone when we were a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like Greg, I think you're talking about the Constitution. That was a funny joke. And
That
like,
was good.
It's not a joke. It's the truth. We can't get
that was
along on
good.
that.
We're talking, thousands of years across. I don't know what was the first language it was written in. It was like Aramaic or something.
Aramaic.
Yeah, Aramaic.
Need
So
more food.
right. So it's like from that into how many different languages, and then each person, right? How many times have we heard interpretation on this panel? You know what I'm saying?
We did
It
good
literally
tonight,
talks
Justin.
about
We
how
did
to
very
own
good
people.
tonight.
Like, God talks about, like, here's how you own a person.
Oh yeah.
That's
I bring
fucking
that
insane.
one up a
Like,
lot. Like
how do you
all three,
interpret that?
the ear
There's no
and-
interpretation of that. It's
George,
just, you
George,
own a
if
guy.
you don't want a God dancing all in your videos, letting bad shit happen to you, come on over to Death Row. Come on over to atheist side.
Well, this is the one critique I was going to ask you guys. Maybe this is a discussion for another day. But the one problem I have with, or not problem, that I see, if you're going to take the view as an agnostic or an atheist, how do you know whatever moral decisions you come up with are the right ones, and how do you know they're true? What do you use
Empathy.
I'll answer.
to basically reconcile, or how do you know that like if you had a compass, if I was going to sail from Florida to England, and I didn't have GPS and I didn't have all that, I had a compass.
We
right?
get it. We got the
We
question, George.
we got it. Yeah. Like, how do you know good from bad? Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm making people angry, sad, injured, or whatever, then it's a good chance that I should analyze what I'm doing or saying. If I'm making people happy, encouraging, like bringing up their life, making them feel great, helping them, healing them, then I'm probably doing something good that I could also analyze. It's not that difficult where I need to say, where do I get my thoughts about morality from? Either I'm helping people or I'm not helping people, or I'm indifferent about it.
You don't realize it, but you're making a moral judgment. I mean, like the person who deals drugs to the addicts, heroin addicts. I'll take this extreme example. They're happy. The people that they deal drugs to are happy. They're wrecking their lives in the long run.
Yes.
But
no. Going back to what Mr. Justin said, if you're not harming anyone, you're happy that you're getting money, but you know you're harming people, and the people doing drugs know that they're harming themselves. That is why they go to rehab, because they know it's bad for themselves. But let me just say this: you're posing a great question. I happen to think it is innate. We see it with toddlers. Toddlers, if they see another toddler crying, no one taught them about a God. When my kids were little, my nephew and my daughter, they were like 2-3 years old. My daughter would see my nephew crying, they would yay high, and she would immediately go run and get her pacifier and give it to him. She didn't know anything about a God or a Jesus. I think it's innate. I think empathy is a natural human emotion. So that's where I get it from. Look at how nice I am to people. I don't have a God nowhere in me. I have a God nowhere in me. Now, if you cross me, I'll take your head off. But I'm the type of person that will take my shirt off my back. How's that for a visual? And give it to someone who needs it more than I do. That doesn't come from a God. That comes from, that's how I've always been. I was like that when I was a kid. Children are like that. I just think it's natural.
It requires that
Toddlers are inherently selfish because they are all primal instinct. Little kids, without being taught what's right or wrong, or taught empathy isn't something. I don't believe it's innate. I think you learn it. I think you have.
I do too. I think you learn it based on behavior.
You're still an animal. Your whole thing is, how do I survive? You need food, shelter, water, and air. You need those things to survive. And you will if you are not taught how to use those things communally or how to create them or cultivate them, you will do whatever the fuck you have to do to get them. And that means fucking rob, cheat, steal, and murder.
Right, but now
to
we're
get your
I know,
rights.
right? I know, but now we're talking survival.
No,
That's different. Okay, but that's
like,
but wait a minute, now we're talking survival, and every living thing tries to survive. I don't think toddlers are innately or inherently evil.
That's my
right?
point.
Unless
they get
it's
it taught out of
starving.
them. But
right?
But that's the thing. Empathy is a learned thing. It's a learned part of psychology, and I think the way that we achieve that is through our own emotional responses to things that are happening around us. So if I'm standing next to my friend and somebody comes up and punches him in the face, my thought is, holy shit, that really hurt my friend. And that like hurts me inside. I'm not going to go randomly punching people in the face because I don't want to make anyone feel how I just felt. And I think that's how you start learning to develop empathy and then creating some kind of moral
I disagree. I disagree on the empathy thing.
I think it's learned.
I don't think it's learned.
Hang on a second. I think it's learned the other way around. Check this out. When a baby cries, right, they're given, say, like a breast. All right. So it's even, I think it's even learning at that stage, right? I'm in discomfort and then I give this thing. And so it's like, it's not the same way. It's like sort of reversed. So I think it's learned, but we are wired to learn this because it is part of our survival mechanism.
But it's also
one of many survival mechanisms that we have. But I think empathy is
I think it's something we evolved into because, again, originally, like we had our tribes and we were murdering the fuck out of each other to get to like, you know, the giant fucking ostrich egg that we all wanted to eat. And whichever tribe got to it first, it was like, fuck you, I'm not giving it to other tribes. So, it's something that our complex brains evolved to.
Basically, it's nature versus nurture. It's definitely nature versus nurture because the environment that you're raised in. So you're an infant and you're crying. You learn that if you cry, you get held, you get loved. You start to develop this type of, oh, if I'm in pain, this is what you do. But if you're in an environment where you're not getting that, you're missing out on that stuff. This is where they have that theory about sociopaths being born, or, you know, like for example, Bundy and stuff like that. Like they try to figure out where that they go wrong, where they think that it's right to go murder people and do these crazy stuff to these people. But at the same time, you also have things like generational trauma that's happening. So these people, they're raised thinking, oh, this is what love is, being verbally abused, being neglected. This is what's normal. This is what you're supposed to do. So you have this whole thing of nature versus nurture argument. Like, how do you know what is right? Because of how you were raised and what you were brought into, or because somebody else tells you that this is what's right and what's wrong.
And there's also hold on about not worshiping other gods.
Hold on, hold on. There's also the opposite where you're raised in a very dysfunctional, violent place, and then you grow up and you're like, I want to be empathetic and compassionate to everybody.
Like
so it's
me.
not so it's not always you grow up in a nutty house and then it's like, you know what I mean, if we're doing the nature nurture thing. But we have to close, guys. It's past the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna end up cussing somebody out, and I love you all too much to do that. So I gotta get my bison burger that the good Lord has provided me on this evening.
That's Uber Eats, girl. Stop. Don't even try.
Don't even try. Hallelujah.
Hey,
hallelujah.
Yes, and then I have something to say to you, George. Go ahead.
Okay, is that I think these discussions are really good. I disagree with Spro about it being a waste of time. I think that it's really helpful. It's helpful for me. One of the things that I got on here, if y'all remember, I said I want my beliefs challenged, and then whatever is the bullshit part, like going through a crucible, I get rid of those things, and then because I feel like if you're going to have a faith, it's got to be tested. It must be tested. Yes. And so maybe not we do this every week, but I appreciate everybody's input. And Greg, I really appreciate your arguments. You made some really good points tonight. So,
and I appreciate you hearing me. Thank you.
Yeah, Greg, definitely come back up. I just wanted to say really quickly before we close, George, I totally appreciate you. You are the only religious person up here, devout, okay, and you're up here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what I mean? An entire and that takes some cojones. I'm that type of person. I go against the fucking army. I don't give a fuck right? So I salute to you for that, for staying up here and sticking to your fucking guns. That shit's really, really dope. And I'm with you. I don't agree with Spro. Spro sometimes is too smart for his own good. I don't believe that these conversations don't help. They do fucking help. At the very least, we prove to other people we can be on opposite ends and still give a fuck about the person we're sitting across. So
That's it.
I'm
And
with you.
way to be intellectually honest enough to at points where you did say, I don't have an answer for that. And
George
I
makes
think
the
I can
most
guess
sense
it.
out of any
That's
Christian I've ever had
That's
communication
a great
with.
quality
Like,
just as a
seriously.
human to have. So good
Well,
on
thank
you.
you. And I appreciate
like you,
that.
George.
You got bar. You're pretty cool.
His name is Black Atheist Rants. Is that like the whole channel? It's just a black man ranting about atheism. That's all he does.
One of my best critics.
It's entertaining, though. He's entertaining.
We go over there. It's not for the week, baby. It's not for the week.
All right, guys. So listen, here's the thing. There's a lot of us. We don't all need to say parting words, only if you want to. If not, we are the fuck out of here. I got some bison I need to get to. Misty, mi amor, I really want you to talk more. I know we talk a lot.
No,
But okay. All right, cool. So please come back. Bye, Bar.
I will. I'll be back another time. Y'all are awesome. Bye.
Okay, tomorrow's gonna be fun too. All right, guys. Good night.
Thank you for having me. Sorry about the camera issues at the start.
Okay. All right.
Good night,
All right, guys.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
And we're out of here. Right, guys, if you're still here, hit that like and subscribe on your way out for mama. Don't forget to follow all the channels you saw here today. Bye, bye. Good night, guys. You nuts. Peace. And thank you to everyone who joined me from Bar's channel. I see he has a lot of fans. I appreciate you all.
They love you, man. They love you, dog.
I see. We love you too. I get it. I get it. Thank you for being here tonight, guys. And thank you for holding us down in the chat. And thank you for the super chats. Good night. Woo.